and 106.3.
Ranks it, he scores!
On both sides of the ball. One big possession.
Touchdown, Middle Tennessee.
The Game.
A Cromwell media station.
Covering your teams and the news of the day.
Ladies and gentlemen.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
Who is pleasant to listen to.
With Caroline Fenton, Willy Donick, and former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason.
You are hands down my favorite radio personalities of all time.
On 102.5 and 106.3, The Game, and the Game Nashville app.
With no further ado.
It is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, The Game, live at Bridgestone Arena. The press conference is about to begin. Chase McCabe, Willy Donick here with you. And David Poyle, Sean Henry, they have made their way in to the arena. So we'll be going to the podium here in just a second for that. But, Willy, a monumental day for the Nashville Predators.
Yeah, this is a big one. You think about only one GM in team history, David Poyle, the winningest GM of all time. And I'm looking forward to this press conference because I really think they put a lot of thought into this. And I think, you know, this was a decision that took a long time to come to a conclusion on. And I think they really want to do this right, and I'm sure they're going to. And I think you're going to see a lot of emotions here. And I do think, you know, when the news came out, Chase, I don't know about you, but I think the feedback and the first impression was a really positive one.
Sure.
Right? Because it's not like they're kicking anybody to the curb. They're bringing in one of the most popular guys in team history. You know, you're going to get some new ideas. It's a great balance between, you know, the continuity that this franchise has been built on and also bringing in new ideas and looking at a new direction.
Yeah, and I think they're doing this the right way. Like, this is the perfect way to write the story and to continue the story of the Nashville Predators. But in the David Poyle chapter, which is several chapters in the book.
It's a big novel.
But to end that one and to hand it off to Barry Trotz, who I think is a tremendous hockey mind, obviously a very successful head coach. And there's something to be said, especially in hockey, about coaches that, you know, can transition into that role. And I think he's going to do a great job at it. And he's got – the other thing is to be able to lean on David Poyle and, you know, ask him for advice is going to be huge for him as well.
Yeah, and as we were talking about to end the last hour, you've also got an infrastructure that Barry Trotz already has relationships with, like Scott Nickel, who I think is a fantastic up-and-coming future GM. I really believe that Scott Nickel will be a GM in this league
he could
someday.
Be a GM or a coach, if I'm being honest.
He's a really sharp hockey mind for sure. We mentioned Jeff Kilty, who behind the scenes, you know, he's the amateur scout. He runs the draft. I think now think about Jeff Kilty's position now with all these draft picks they just got.
Oh, yeah.
The draft is in Nashville this summer, right? That is part of the thinking with the moves that they made is, you know, you're trying to get some fresh new blood. Now, a lot of these players, even the ones they've drafted in the last couple of years, may not help them for another year or two, but they're building a pretty good farm system. And for a new GM to come in and have that kind of draft capital and assets is really important. You think about a guy like Sebastian Bordelot, who's the skills coach. He was on the original Predators team. You know, so there's a lot of relationships that Barry Trotz has with. It's all sort of connected. So I think this has a chance to really be a good seamless transition.
Yeah, I do too, and that's why I think it's the perfect way to do it. You know, I think it's the right time. You know, especially now with, you know, some of the moves that they've made over the last couple of days with trades, kind of signaling that they're listening and that they are wanting to, you know, kind of see what happens with the trade market and look ahead to the future, not so much the now. Now, look, they're still in a spot where, you know, even with some of these moves, they could make it.
Yeah, you know, I think with the moves they made so far, now we'll see what they do in the next week. There may be a decision if you get the kind of offer they got for Tanner Jeannot.
Yeah,
I mean, you've got some buyers right now that are going all in. That Tampa move was an all-in move. You look at Tampa and Toronto, who are basically on collision course to play in the first round. They're both loading up, so they're giving up big assets to try to give themselves the best shot. That's the only explanation. Like, people were aghast at how much Tampa Bay gave up for Tanner Jeannot. So that's the offer you cannot turn down. So if there's something else like that, you have to take a look at it. So we're really curious to see what happens. Because in the meantime, like you and I were talking about before, it's a little bit of have your cake and eat it too. It doesn't mean that you can't keep winning with the players that you're keeping, especially if the players like Cody Glass and Tommy Novak, the guys are really showing some promise here, keep doing the things they're doing. Those are the guys you want to see sort of take the reins now.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I think with some of the things you've seen with the young guys, you got to feel good about the future. I know a lot of people have asked about goaltending. I feel like Askarov could benefit from another year in Milwaukee in the AHL because, you know, calling him up to be the backup I don't think does him any good. You know, he's not getting the playing time that he needs to get night in and night out. You know, so I don't feel like you're going to see a change there with Saros unless you just get absolutely blown away by an offer, and then you might consider it.
I would be stunned if they even
especially right now
if they consider it. Now I'll guarantee you they're probably going to get a few phone calls.
Sure.
Like, hey, what are you guys thinking? Because especially when you make a move or two like they did, that sort of signals the rest of the league as if they already didn't know that. Okay, they're in that mode, so let's see what we got. But I'm with you on Askarov. I think there's a process. Think about Andrei Vasilevsky in Tampa. He was ready to play and win some games in the NHL in his early 20s. Askarov is only 20. I mean, he is really, really young. The fact that he's producing and playing as well in Milwaukee as he is says a lot about his talent. But it's like a pitcher that has electric stuff on the mound. It takes time to refine how to play, how to work with your teammates, the situational play. And that's going to happen, but there's a lot more reps. So go back to Vasilevsky. They had a guy named Ben Bishop for Tampa that was a really good goalie. Led them to the Stanley Cup Finals in 2015. So Vasilevsky, there were stages. He'd come in, he'd play, go back to the minors a little bit, back up for a while, send back to the minors. Even UC Saros under Pekka Rinne, there was a process. UC Saros came in, started playing at 21, 22. Yep. But it was in stages. So I think if there's the long play with Askarov, that's the smart play. It's not time yet to turn the reins over to him at such a young age. That's a very risky thing to do with such a big-time prospect. But you think about him and all of the guys they're going to have in Milwaukee next year. You think about Joachim Kimmel.
I'm excited
Fedor
about
Svechkov, who's in the KHL right now. He's likely to come over and sign next year. So they could have 4 or 5 first-round picks. LaRue, who, of course, he just had the incident, got suspended, but he's still a promising prospect. He could be ready for Milwaukee next year. So the pipeline is starting to fill back up. To their credit, they have not really traded off future assets over the last 4 or 5 years, so they're building a good farm system.
So what are some things outside of what we've covered already that you want to hear today from both, really everybody involved, Sean Henry, David Poile, and, of course, Barry Trotz?
I'm curious, what Barry says about bringing new ideas to the table, but also utilizing the current infrastructure, how he plans to – because David Poile will be the GM until June 30th. So he's going to be making the moves that are pretty critical. You think about, what happens in these next couple of days. I mean, that's still David Poile making the call here with probably some assistance. I'm also curious to see, how much they share about, when Barry Trotz started coming in and listening in on the state of the team, right, and what needed to happen. So I think that's kind of what I'm curious to hear. I think there's going to be a lot of, well-wishing and reminiscing, getting nostalgic here, but also I think people want to know, tell me what's going on in the now. It's a really interesting position the team's in.
Yeah,
Would you agree?
It is.
I mean, it's
I think
you're sitting there, you've won 4 out of 5. Like
right.
they really stumbled out of the gate, which was, you really go back now and you say, what if? If they just had beaten Arizona, or if they had found a way to get the game to overtime against the Wild, just get a few more points. With the games in hand right now, they're only a couple points out of the playoff spot. But the assessment was made that what they've done over the first 56, 57 games just wasn't quite where it needed to be. They needed to look to make the team better in the future, and they made that decision. So while that's going on, you've got this Barry Trotz thing going on in the backdrop.
Right.
So I'm curious what his thoughts were as he watched all this.
So I tell you what we're going to do. They're getting a few technical things worked out with the press conference before they get it going here. So we're going to step away for just a second, and then we will come back and you'll hear from Sean Henry, David Poile, and Barry Trotz as Barry Trotz is introduced as the new general manager of the Nashville Predators here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Every Wednesday at noon.
That fits the mentality of what they're going to do.
Outkick 360's Jonathan Hutton joins Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase to talk all things Titans and NFL.
Much more creative in how you go about calling certain plays.
He's got opinions and insights on the two-tone blue.
That doesn't mean that you can't have great or don't need great quarterback play.
Catch Hutton every Wednesday at noon on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Well, I knew as soon as I did that, they were going to get ready to get going. So let's go ahead, and without further ado, the retirement ceremony for David Poile and Barry Trotz being introduced.
Very exciting, a little nerve-wracking, if you will. It'll be good to have a team and to say we finally are the Nashville Predators.
I'd like to say hello to all the people that are watching in Nashville. Nashville's first player in the 1998 entry draft from the Plymouth Whalers, David Laidlaw.
We had in place arguably the best general manager in all of hockey.
You've done more than anyone I can think of to make Nashville a true hockey town.
The General Manager of the Year award goes to David Poile.
And the architect of the Nashville Predators from day one has now become the all-time winningest general manager in NHL history.
You're one of the people that we consider the absolute heart and soul of our game. A great man and a great career. Thank you for all you have given the game.
Well, thank you all for coming out today. Thanks for the patience as we work through a few issues. Again, as I said before, we don't do these very often, thankfully. So I want to thank, again, everyone for being here. Special thanks to Warren Wu, one of our owners, Bill and Chrissy Haslam, who are here. And unfortunately, Herb Fritsch, our chairman, couldn't join us today. He's recovering from surgery. He's at home resting well. But he has been with us every step of the way as we've been working with David, really over the past 3 or 4 years leading up to what today's announcement is. It's a remarkable day. It's a historic day. It's a hard one, for all of us for a lot of reasons. You can't say enough about David Poile, obviously. Over 50 years in this sport, he's given so much to the game. He was always caretaking the game first and then his organization. And I think he made all of us students of that and pushed us all forward as he really did protect the game and always tried to make it better and better. But the story can't be told of David Poile without talking about Nashville. He got here over 25 years ago to just the city and somehow transformed that with Barry Trotz into Smashville. And we're the envy of every other sports city in America because of what we do, what we enjoy, and our relationship with our fans and with each other. And that's all because of David's foundation that he laid 25, 26 years ago. But today is probably the best example of what David Poile is. And what are Poiles? They're planners in all things. And especially when you work with someone that's not a planner, I'm sure it's very frustrating. But 3, 4 years ago, David started talking about today. His last season, when was it going to be? I never put a time frame on that, but there were a few things that he wanted to do before he decided this would be his last season, and that was to change our hockey operations department for the better. Wanted to look at what we do, how we do it, when we do it, and make it just better. Wanted to be the model of who and what we were in our league, and that's what he set out to do at every level, from the minor leagues, Milwaukee here, player development, what we did from a video standpoint, what we did for our players, full 360 health, both physical and mental, continue to build the family, invest in our AGMs, and we have 3 of the best assistant general managers in our entire sport. All 3 will be general managers. There's no doubt about that. Wanted to look at our scouting department. How do you add to it? How do you just make us better as a whole? And each and every year over the past 3 or 4 years, it was how do we invest in people, equipment, software, and processes. And last season, right after the playoffs, around the draft time, David said, I think this should be my last year because we're ready for it. Our department is ready for the next step and the next person. And that's something when a future Hall of Famer says that. It's even a little bit more significant and historic when the person that's going to replace him is the man that he met over 40 years ago, another future Hall of Famer. So today's a big day. Again, a lot of mixed emotions. But David, what you've meant to this city, what you've meant to thousands of people, it's nothing short of incredible. I just want to say thank you for being a partner for the past 13 years, the best 13 years of my career. And I think anyone that ever thanks David for working with him will always say it's been the best part of my career, whether it was for a day, a year, or a 40-year relationship like you've enjoyed with Barry. So the stage is yours now, David. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. I'm always very envious of Sean and how well he speaks, and he has no notes at all. I got like a book here, but
they can tell I had no notes.
Thank you, Sean, very much. And welcome back to the Trotz family. I would like you to get rid of all that Islanders and Washington stuff, okay? And get that barrel out that you have all your Predator stuff, okay? Thank you. Thanks for Smashville for being here today. I love the gold and everybody being here. I've been to a lot of press conferences, but this is the first. I don't think you ever exactly planned for this. As Sean indicated, I'm going to retire at the end of this season. I'm going to transition to a role of advisor to hockey ops and to specifically Barry and to Herb and to Bill Haslam for whatever they might need. I hope they need me, Bill. I hope you need me. I like to hang around a little bit here. I've got two loves in my life, my family and hockey. I'm so lucky that my wife, Elizabeth, has been by my side throughout this journey. She gets all the credit for raising our two children. Yes. She gets all the credit for raising our two terrific children. Brian, who's here, and Lauren's out in California. It's a love story, guys. You want to hear the love story? I mean, we met at 13 years of age. French class. I sat behind her and pulled on her pigtails. You've heard this story. But it's a true love story. And we were next door neighbors. She doesn't like me to say that. It actually was one house in between us. But that's how it started, age 13. And we got together, we went to college, different things. Got together every 4th of July and with our families and stuff like that. And then, lo and behold, we got married on the 4th of July. That's Independence Day, or what I call loss of Independence Day. So you might have heard me talk about my wife a little bit, and this is for the younger people here. Just, I'm the king of the castle. You know who rules our house. So when I was young, I said to Elizabeth, look, if this marriage is going to work, it's got to be this way. I'm going to make all the major decisions in our relationships, and she'll make the minor decisions. Fortunately for our marriage, we have never had to make a major decision. So, but we talked about this last night. Our marriage is at a crossroads with this decision of me retiring, because at our vows, she said, "I'll marry you for richer or poorer, but not for lunch." So I don't know how this is going to go. Elizabeth, thank you for everything. Thanks for letting me do my thing for 51 years. One more applause, please. For me, there was only one way to do this job when I started 51 years ago, and that's to be all in all the time. Is it reverberating? Is that reverberating?
Just for us.
Okay, just for you guys? Okay. But it is time to step back and devote more time to my family. I want to do that, spend time with my kids, my grandkids. My kids want me to spend more time with their grandkids so that they can have some freedom. So it's going to work out for all of us. I have loved the game of hockey since I was young. I love the speed of the game, the skill of the game, the physical part of the game, the mental demands of the game, the teamwork involved, the sounds, the atmosphere. I love the smell of the rink, the fresh ice. When I realized I wasn't going to be able to be good enough to be a pro hockey player, which back in 1972, I was lucky enough to get in the game at that time in 72, and I've stayed in the National Hockey League from 72 right till today. But today, it's time for a new voice, a new vision, a new direction for the Predators. When I came here 26 years ago, had a goal of to transform this non-traditional hockey market into a hockey community, and to build a team through drafting and development with a plan of becoming consistently competitive with ultimately competing for the Stanley Cup. Today, Smashville has one of the most passionate fan bases. Bridgestone Arena was named just last week again the Polestar Arena of the Year again. You can clap for yourselves. You guys did this. Our Predators Foundation has made such an impact in the community through financial support and involvement of our players and our staff. And our youth hockey has just exploded with the forward ice centers like in Antioch, Bellevue, and soon to be Clarksville. I cannot thank the fans enough for taking a chance on us. Many people in Nashville attending the National League game for the first time and falling in love with the game, and always providing us with that home ice advantage, which is surely going to continue in the future. And thanks to the media that are here today, providing coverage and telling the stories that connect the players with the fan base. Really appreciate your involvement. It wasn't until our 6th year that we made the playoffs, but since that time, we've been very competitive. We only missed the playoffs three times. And I'm very proud of our record. Our all-time regular season record is amongst the best teams in the history of the National Hockey League. We made the finals in 17, the President's Trophy in 18, but we have not achieved our ultimate goal, and that's winning the Stanley Cup. The chase for the Cup is why we're in the National Hockey League. That's what I've been chasing my whole career. And to the fans, I thank you for your fantastic support and wanting nothing more to celebrate with you when the Nashville Predators do win the Stanley Cup. And I look forward to doing that in my new role. As Sean just said, I'm a planner. The Poyles are planners. My kids got that ingrained. We plan, we stay organized and all that. But we're in a now business, and it's always essential to look toward and plan for the future. So as Sean said, and I'm just kind of doubling down on what he said, we've done a lot of work in the last 2 or 3 years to I think put the hockey ops in the best position possible to be successful. And off the ice, we got dedicated and experienced AGMs, and I just want to point them out to you. Brian, my son, Jeff Kelty, and Scott Nickel, fantastic guys, fantastic people. Again, I did a little joke in the GM business when we compare notes about how's your staff set up and what have you. So I tell them I got Brian, I got Jeff, I got Scott, and they do this, they do this, they do this. I list it all off, and then there's a pause, and they say, David, what do you do? So that tells me that I got it right. But as Sean said, we just put the hockey ops in our whole organization. I think it's the best ever. We have all the tools to be successful. Excuse me for a second here. Just want to talk about my dad a little bit. I really learned a lot from him, and he was obviously a mentor to me. And he always taught me that the game is always bigger than one game or one season, and it was important to leave it in a better place than when you started. Well, I admit we're not where we want to be this season. I really hope the organizational structure that we're just talking about, our culture, our prospect pipeline, provides a foundation for Barrie to build upon. 51 years ago, let me have a drink here, please. Thanks for bearing with me here. I'm only going to do this once. 51 years ago, Cliff Fletcher, general manager of the Atlanta Flames, took a chance on a young guy just out of college, opened the door to my initial career when he brought me to Atlanta to help launch an expansion team, the Atlanta Flames. He was my mentor, and he gave me responsibility and opportunity that paved the way for my growth and development. In 1982, Abe Poland and Dick Patrick hired me as the youngest general manager in the National Hockey League at age 33 for the Washington Capitals. Spent 15 years there. As I sign off here, what I really treasure my relationships that I have in my career, and there's a few general managers that really meant a lot to me. Harry Sinnen with the Boston Bruins, Glenn Sather with the Rangers, Bill Torrey with the Islanders, Scotty Bowman with Buffalo, and the more senior guys now, like Lou Lamoriello, who was so helpful in this, the transition and cooperating and having Barrie come with us. Kenny Holland in Edmonton, Don Waddell in Carolina, Doug Armstrong in St. Louis. There's so many more, but these are the guys that I've probably hung out the most with. Everybody knows the story. In the last 25 years, after leaving the Caps in '97, I connected with Craig Leopold and Jack Diller, who I hope is here today. They were both heading up to this expansion franchise. I had been contacted by an existing team, and my father suggested going with that existing team. But having watched him develop expansion teams in Philadelphia and Vancouver, I decided I wanted to take my chance at building a team from scratch, and it was a phenomenal experience, and that's been the best 25 years in my hockey career, to be able to do something like this from scratch. There's so many firsts, there's milestones that you can only experience when you start something like an expansion. Our first game, our first win, the first time we got in the playoffs, hosting the NHL draft in 03, signing our first star player, Paul Kariya, winning our first playoff series, hosting the NHL All-Star Weekend, which we changed so much for the whole NHL, making our first trip to the Stanley Cup Finals, winning the President's Trophy in 18, playing in the Winter Classic last year, hosting the Stadium Series, and retiring our first jersey in honor of Pekka Rinne. All great memories. I've loved everything about this job. Developing a plan, working with people to bring the plan to reality, meetings where everyone plays a role, provides input, contributes, planning for training camp, the draft, free agency, trade deadlines, and dealing with the crisis of the day. That's probably a little inside joke that we have in my organization, because we know it's going to happen. We don't know if it's going to be in the morning or the afternoon, but we're going to have the crisis of the day. So I have like notebooks, and I have different things. I have the people I talk to on a regular basis, and I have room on my little pad for today, the crisis of the day. It's going to come. Look at Bill, he's nodding, he knows what I'm talking about. As a leader, you're only as good as the people that surround you, and I've been so lucky here in Nashville to be surrounded by so many to have shared that, I'd say, a common goal. Starting with ownership, Craig Leopold, who took a chance on this market and took a chance on me, David Freeman, who stepped up to keep the team here in Nashville, Tom Sigran, that gave us some swagger and belief that we're going to be the best team in the National Hockey League. And that led to Herb Fritsch being the owner and taking over the team. How great is it that your owner is actually your biggest fan? I mean, has anybody seen Herb Fritsch not dressed in a Preds gold or what have you? He's just been phenomenal. He just asks why, you give him your answer, and he tells you to do the best you can. So it's been a wonderful experience. I'm sure Sean would concur with that. Herb, I wish you good health, and you get back to doing the second thing that you love the most, and that's fishing, or maybe vice versa. But I hope you get well. And then to soon to be Bill Haslam, welcome, and I know you're going to do and make this franchise bigger and better, and I know you got some great plans, and everybody should be looking forward to that. It's going to be a spectacular time under your ownership. In our leadership, Jack Diller was our first president. Jack and I agreed on a 3-year contract. I think I got it about 6 months after I was working here. Things weren't quite as efficient as we're in. And so Jack brings me the contract. It's a 5-year contract. I said, Jack, I thought we agreed on a 3-year contract. He says, I think this is going to work out. Just sign that. So started off with a 5-year contract. And then Jeff Cogan was our after Jack, and he coined the phrase when he wanted to talk to me. He says, David, you and I are partners. And so that's what Sean is saying. So we'd always say partners when he actually wanted something, I guess. And then Sean took over, and with Sean, Michelle Kennedy, it's just been great here, and I think the strides that the franchise has taken in the last 10 years has been monumental. I'd like to say both on and off the ice. So Sean and Michelle, thank you very, very much. And the hockey operations and my management team, I'm fortunate to have Ray Sherrill was my first assistant, Paul Fenton, they both went on to be general managers. Mike Santos worked here for a bit, and then now we got the three amigos here that are doing all the work. Thank you very much, Brian, Scott, and Jeff. Our coaches, I had 3 coaches in Washington, Brian and Terry Murray, Jim Schoenfeld, and here in Nashville, Barry Trotz, Peter Levitt, and John Hines. 6 coaches in 41 years. John, is my picture, when you go to the coaches meeting, is my picture up there like David Poyle? That's the guy you want to work for. That's the guy. Exactly. Our assistant coaches, we've had assistant coaches go on to be head coaches, Peter Horchuk, Phil Housley, Lane Lambert, along with goalie coaches, Warren Strelo, who's now in the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame, and Mitch Korn, who has set I'd say the bar that's been passed on now to Ben Vanderklok for our goaltending standards. So thank you, Mitch Korn. On our support staff, Pete Rogers, I know you're here today, 24 years with the organization, the godfather of equipment managers in the National Hockey League and the fastest stick man in the league. That's mean he gets this, you know what I mean. Brandon Walker, Brandon's been with us for 20 years. He's been responsible for our travel and coordination. And a shout out to all the rest of our medical and training staff, but I'm just really proud that have employees that have been with me that long. None of this is possible, of course, without the players, and my eyes are to our players over there, led by our captain, Roman Yossi, that had a late night last night, a great win, and they came here today. I really appreciate that. The players are what it's all about. I mean, I'm not sitting up here for 25 years or 41 years of a general manager if we're not playing winning hockey, and we've had some great teams, great players. Roman, you're the leader of our team. You're our best player. I look forward to watching you play and dealing with you for many, many years, and we're going to be getting better and better. And I'm going to be working with Barry as much as he allow me to make sure that happens. Thank you guys for everything that you've done. On the business operations side, I mean, when I started in Atlanta, we maybe had 7 or 8 employees, and today we have 200 or 300 employees, and they're so important for our overall success and impact. And Britt Kinchlow, I don't know, I'm not seeing everybody, she's here today. She's been here longer than I have. I'd like to have said I was the original employee, but Britt there's Britt right there. So again, believe me, I really thank you and everybody else that's here. Again, your impact and what you've done in this organization is fabulous. So thank you very much. I've always valued, loyalty, and everybody hasn't been appreciated, but it's a two-way street. But I got a couple other people that have been part of the organization for so many years that I want to give a shout out to. Brent Peterson, where are you at, Brent? Give me a wave here. There. He's the original part of our coaching staff that Barry hired. He became a broadcaster, but he's always been a confidant. And thanks, Brent, for everything you've done for this organization and continue to do. Appreciate your friendship. Jerry Helper, who headed up our communications and foundation for 24 years, is here today. Jerry, thank you very much for helping me for 24 years and again today. Appreciate everything you've done for me. And Pete and Terry. They don't even need last names. Everybody has a last name. It's Pete and Terry. How good is that? Talk about face of the franchise. These are the guys that helped grow this franchise through their on-air work and personalities in our community. Thanks, Pete and Terry. As I step away from this job, there's kind of 3 ingredients that I think really make a successful life, maybe for me, but I'll say that. Number 1 is who you marry, who your partner is. There she is. 51 years and 20, so. But who's counting? So if you get that right, that's a good start. Number 2, the job that you love. I've had the only job I have ever wanted for 51 years. How lucky am I? Number 3, where you live. Nashville, Tennessee. Smashville. How lucky am I? What do they call that when 3 things all line up in hockey? A hat trick. I have scored a true hat trick in life, and I couldn't be more grateful. I'm so proud of my time and work here. I've tried to make contributions here and to the NHL, and it has been the privilege and the honor of my life to serve as a general manager in the National Hockey League and for the Nashville Predators. But now is the right time to step back, be the Predators' #1 fan, be available to ownership and the organization going forward, and to afford Barry Trotz the honor of sitting in this chair and directing this franchise towards its goal of a Stanley Cup. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Really, really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
David, I don't think anyone else should talk after that, but thank you. You heard David say he was the luckiest man in the world because of his hat trick. I think he's wrong. We're the lucky ones because we've had a chance to be at your side for any number of years. And I think one of the luckiest people I know is about to walk out that tunnel. We'll get a chance to welcome home a future Hall of Famer, Barry Trotz, to replace you or try to replace you. But he's very fortunate. He's very lucky because he's going to have you by his side, helping guide the ship, moving the organization forward. And when you look at the transitions that you talked about, you were so kind talking about other people and from this person to the next to the next. The fact that you've agreed to stay on as an advisor just makes all of us lucky. Smashville is lucky to have you for the past 25 years and ideally for the next 25 as we celebrate more and more things. So thank you so much. I want to thank Barry, who I think is going to come out. I think we're going to do a video first. I don't look at the script that often. But when Barry comes out, we're also very thankful to Barry, who agreed to step into this role today. Not many organizations get a chance to have one general manager pass the torch to the next one and work together for 3 or 4 months as he learns his new role, gets a chance to spend time in Milwaukee and at all levels. So, Barry, welcome home. We're all glad you're here.
Thank you.
You got a chance to enjoy you on video for a minute.
You're listening to the Predators press conference.
First of all, I just
Barry
love
Trotz
to
and David
thank
Poyle.
Craig and Jack and David and obviously the community of Nashville.
In 1997, he gave me the keys to the expansion franchise, and I was a rookie head coach in a non-traditional market, and all conventional thinking was they go with a very veteran coach, and he took a chance on a young guy from Portland, Maine.
The trailer, Hellas jump, he scores!
We were just in the preliminary stages of putting an organization together in a non-traditional market. We're going to do things a little differently. We just wanted to start the foundation of a good hockey team and try to create a real good environment. It is a really special place, and when you step back sometimes from Nashville, you realize how special it is.
Well, it's good to be back home. I am really, really thrilled for this opportunity. It's been a full circle dream, if you will. I just want to thank David. In '97, he gave me a phone call and said, I'd like to hire you, or want you to come and be with the Predators, and I said I'd like to be a part of that, and then he gave me that job and took a chance on the least experienced person he knew, and he's probably going to make that same mistake today. But I really, Nashville's home. It always has been. It's been home for my family, my kids, I'm looking over here. My granddaughter, they've grown up in here in Nashville, and that's their home. I look out and there's great friends that are out there, and then I get an opportunity to work with people who new faces and some faces that are familiar, from ex-players to I've watched Brian grow up and see how he's grown to be such a wonderful manager in his area and a father, and John, to get a chance to work with John and Scott and Jeff. These are great young people. I look out in the crowd and I see faces that are, I call original material, that went through the days, the Pete Rogers when we got hired, and and Bordy played for me, and a partner who still works the room for all these years, and I can go on and on. There's so many faces. That's the Nashville way. There's people that are always part of the family, and I've always considered the Predators part of my family, and getting really emotional because I look around and I came back to Nashville in May, I guess, and everything was so familiar, but everything was so different. in a good way. And I'm really thankful for that opportunity to be back in a familiar place, and I thank the ownership, which is outstanding. I just think this is a place that we can have great success, and I'm looking forward to it. Also, I look back, and we've always tried to have character in Nashville and family, and I see one of the best captains in the National Hockey League, Roman Josi, who I had the pleasure of working with as a coach, as a young man. We got Cody out there, we've got Juice out there, and we've got, who's my third guy? Jeremy, sorry. New faces, I'm learning a lot of names and my memories, but I really thank them. That tells you the type of people that we're after. And, you know, I'm excited for the people that I work with. I'm excited for the city that I work with, and I'm excited for where we're going. And, you know, from my standpoint, as I said, I look around and I have big shoulders. I don't know if you guys notice that. There's always got to be a little bit of fun in this game. We play hockey, and we don't work hockey, but because it's always that way. I think it's joy. David, for as long as I've known David, it is his passion. He loves the game, and I think I have that passion too. I think the Predators way is that passion. I look around and I'm sort of a little bit emotional and all over. And I look around, everything's so familiar but so foreign to me because it's changed so much. The constant in Nashville is David Poile, and the constant in this organization. And I know behind the scenes in the early days it was very difficult, and I see how this franchise has grown. And go back to the shoulders. I'm going to be able to stand on the shoulders of the great work that this man has done for 25 years. So I can't thank him enough. And when you think Nashville hockey, you should think David Poile. And I'm very thankful to him. The one thing about David, when I look around, and myself included, is he is a mentor. He has mentored so many people in this game, and not only with this franchise, but other franchises, and he's so well respected. And I'm hoping as the next general manager that I can perform the duties with the dignity and the class and the professionalism that David has for so many years. It'll be a tall task, but I'm up for the challenge. So I just want to thank him, ownership, Sean, everybody I'm going to get to work with. You know, this is a great franchise, and I have this vision. Even when I was coaching here, wouldn't it be a great party if we could win a cup? This is a great town, and I happen to, you know, do that in Washington, and it's pretty epic of how they took it to the city, and I'd love for our team and our players to do that here, because it's pretty remarkable. To do that, and that journey, it's all about the journey, and it's not always easy, and I understand that, but everybody, our fans, our players, our coaches, will understand that there's a certain wave, a certain type of DNA that will be part of the Nashville Predators culture, which is already here, and there's the foundational stuff, the structure, it's in a great place. The commitment is in a great place. So we can move forward very easily. And it's a tribute to David. And I'm hoping I can keep my end of the deal. And I'm looking forward to getting work today. I walked in today, I didn't know where I was going half the time. So it's please be patient with me, and we're going to have great success together.
None of us speak sign language, Kevin, but I just want to say thank you all for being here today. I think we're going to take a few questions and then break off into one-on-ones. So again, thank you for being here. And once again, David, the word of the day is thanks. We all owe you so much. If you're in this room or watching this at all, we all owe David for what Smashville is and more importantly, what it will become. So, David, thank you again.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
All right, we'll open it up for questions to the media. We'll open it up for questions to the media. If you can just wait for the mic and then state your name and affiliation.
David, just curious, Corey Curtis here from News 2. I've been here almost as long as you, but not quite.
I know that. Good.
Sean said you guys have been doing this for 3 or 4 years, preparing for this. How long has Barry been a part of the conversation and as being your successor?
Again, we started our relationship 40 years ago when it was my first training camp with the Washington Capitals, and Barry was attending the Washington Capitals training camp as a player, an undrafted player, a very tough, physical player.
But not a good player.
He had leadership. I'm trying to find something. So, in any event, and this I think is a really good story, is Barry didn't make it and he was cut. He went right back to home and to Manitoba. He started coaching at a very young age. In fact, he was at the University of Manitoba, and I believe the players actually were older than Barry was at the time. He had a mentor there, Wayne Fleming, who Barry has a lot of mentors in coaching, and Wayne was one of the best mentors, coaches in Canada. Jack Button, who was with our organization in Washington, was my director of player personnel. He's the one that saw something in Barry, not only as a player, but as a person and possible hockey guy. So from that thing, we hired Barry and Kim, and they moved out to Vancouver. And Barry became a scout for us and scouted for us for Washington for a few years, and started being meetings and stuff like this. What I'm trying to do is give you a verbal description of how he's ready for this job. So then we hired Barry as an assistant coach in Baltimore in the American Hockey League. They moved to Baltimore, head coach in Baltimore. And then they went up to Portland, where we won a championship. And all during that time, myself got to know Barry a lot better in terms of him being a hockey guy and all that. Then you know the rest of the story. He came to Nashville when we hired him 25 years ago. In that first year was Barry and I and Paul Gardner were our scouts. We didn't have the scouts, so we're the ones that did the drafting, and it was I think a fantastic experience for Barry to go to every rink, meet managers, coaches, talk to these guys, and it just took him up another notch. And then the way I ran things here, I was very inclusive, so Barry got to be in lots of meetings and pro, amateur, and done all these other things. So I'm probably subliminally, I was training him for this job, someday. So 15 years with us, and then it ended in 14. And as I like to say, we loaned him to Washington, where he won a Stanley Cup and got more experience. And then we loaned him to the Islanders, where he worked with one of the best general managers in the history of the game, Lou Lamoriello, and he got a whole bunch of things in his head and knowledge, and didn't probably know which way to go. So try to speed up the story. So what happened is he lost his job in the Islanders, and as friends we talked about different things, but mostly just about family and stuff like that. And Barry and Kim wanted to come back to Nashville, and this was going to be his home regardless of whether he was coaching or doing anything else in hockey. So that was the first opportunity to probably advance the conversation. So while Barry was being offered lots of coaching jobs in the off season and turning them down, we talked more and more, and eventually I told him of my situation, that I was going to, this is going to be my last year. And lo and behold, we kept talking, and around, I'd say Christmas time, he kind of said, I'm not going to coach anymore. And he said, could I talk to you about being a candidate for the GM position? And from that time, it went pretty fast with he and I talking and ownership getting involved. And probably by mid-January, we probably had that done. So Barry's the one that created the culture here in Nashville. Barry's the one that coined the phrase, the Predator's Way. Barry and Kim are the ones that got out in the community and did so many things in the community, like Best Buddies and all those other things. So I appreciate a lot of things that have been said about me today. and I'm happy and proud of what I did, but Barry's been a huge, huge part of that. And I think, again, I've been, either I have or he's been, or a combination, been kind of training for this day. Anyway, that's my story, and I would like to believe that that comes true like that. So, long story, Corey. Thanks for asking that question.
Barry, John Glennon.
John.
How are you?
John
sir?
is original material as well.
Indeed. Yes, indeed. We've tried to copy one another's hairlines over the
Yes,
years, so.
yes, we both. I didn't recognize the young man that was on the stage there, so.
Obviously, a ton of success as a coach. In your opinion, what makes you think, I guess those qualities will also make you a good executive, and what do you hope to learn, in this transition process with David?
Well, I think I thought long and hard about this. The things that coaches, how coaches operate, how managers operate. You got to work together, and I've always tried to do that with David, and I think with my stay here, that was evident. And he's mentored me through a lot of the things that he had, all those things actually that he had mentioned. And, you pick up things and you understand everything from, this is a people business. And David's so great with people that I understand that everybody has their lane, where their role, whatever you have, and they're the best at it. And you try to put good people in the right seat. That's the same thing you do with a hockey team. So a lot of those qualities, I think, how I think emotionally as a coach, I think that'll help me being a good manager and knowing where the hot buttons are and the cold buttons are sometimes, because I've lived that. I've also had a great mentor on the other side with David, because he's very inclusive. And then I'm surrounded by 3 outstanding young men who are going to be by my side, and Brian and Kelts and Scott. And I can tell you, these guys know their stuff. They're great. They're going to be wanted by other teams. There's no question. And I'm going to have an opportunity to work with them and learn their knowledge, because they're very good at what they do. And together as a team, I guess, I've always included the team as the success that you have. We're going to make good decisions. We're going to, develop our players. We're going to do all those things. And, some of the, if it comes to salary cap, that's a different world. Brian's an expert at that. So I'm going to rely heavily on them. So if I don't know it, I'll find out. And I'll get the best people or have the best people to give me some direction in those areas, so we can make some of these things happen that we need to make happen. Because we've got you saw last night, there's some decisions that have to be made so that you can collect assets, and how important those assets can turn into what you do in the draft, or you can turn its equity to get other assets that help the team immediately. So that's where I'm learning all that business, and I think I have a really good understanding. And I'll go back to one last thing. When David hired me that year in '97, I got to learn the business, the Hockey 101 business. Now it's 20 years later, but some of those basic principles are still there, and that will never go away. And that was the best year that I could ever have, because I looked at the game, I think, a lot different always, because in the coaching world, when I started, and I'll tell you some honest truths. When I stood on the bench my first time, I was so proud to be in that in the first game here at Bridgestone and be in the NHL my first game. And I was scared to death that I wouldn't make it through the year because it would be so bad. And David would go, I got to switch you out. And you have to think about coaching young men. And I started because of the fact that I had gone through that 97. I looked at the bigger picture, that you just you gotta win, but you gotta develop. And it's developing players on the ice, developing people so that they can have success. Because we're human. These young men, the pressures they feel from management, from coaches, from fans, it's way different than everything else. It just really is. And then you deal with the human aspect of their own personal relationships, be it their wives or whatever. They carry a really good load, and they have to be mentally tough, and they have to have all the tools, and you have to give them those tools to have success. So I have a really broad picture of, what coaching is and what culture is.
Hey Barry, Chris Harris at WSMV4 here. How are you, sir?
You're not original.
I'm not. But welcome back.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, good to see you. When you left here about 9 or so years ago, could you have imagined that life would lead you back to this exact point?
No, not at all. I was just focusing on, and I've always focused on the moment. I mean, you don't ever, if you start thinking about the future too much, you never get to the future. You got to take care of the moment, because that moment is the most important moment. And I've always focused on coaching, trying to get my teams to the next level. I mean, what David has done here is incredible. People don't realize how hard it is, and I've coached for a long time, how hard it is to make the playoffs. And to win in the playoffs, you've got to take your team to, and you'll see in the playoffs, people will do things that they've never done before. They'll play so injured. Some guys think that they can't play, and they get their minds to a point where they can. So to have success is you probably have more failures than you have successes, because you keep challenging to see if you can do it. And the best example I can give you, I have a friend who's climbed Mount Everest, and he failed the first time, went a little farther the second time, and he got asked by media. They asked him, do you have what it takes to climb Mount Everest? And his reply, and I say this, and it's so fitting for hockey, he says, I don't know. That's why I'm going back. And that's the place where you got to get your culture and your team and your players to that very uncomfortable area where they didn't think they could go before. And then you have great success. And that's what I thought I was able to do in Washington. And I almost got it done in New York. There's a team, that Tampa Bay team, kept running into. But at the same time, just like in Washington, we had a couple failures against the Penguins, who the Preds played in the final that year. But we got our guys to go to the next level in terms of that culture and that mentality, and we won a Stanley Cup. So it's a process, and it doesn't happen. You're going to have a lot more failures sometimes than successes, but when you get there, it's all worth it.
Thanks, everybody, for coming. That ends the formal press conference. We are going to do a photo op on the backdrop over here to...
There you go. That is the press conference. David Poile announcing his retirement. Barry Trotz being introduced as the new GM. But don't go anywhere. We're going to have much more coming as they wrap things up here. Barry Trotz is going to join us. David Poile is going to join us. Sean Henry will join us. And Governor Bill Haslam is going to join us to represent the ownership group as well. So stick around. More coming. Caroline and Derek are going to join the fray as well here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Hey, I'm Matthias Ekholm, and this is Smashville.
Ekholm, his shot, he scores! Matthias Ekholm gets the Predators' third of the night.
You're listening to the flagship of the Nashville Predators radio network, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
In St. Pete, Clearwater, Florida, every day is a great escape. With 35 miles of white sand, there's no better place to get away. So let's explore the secluded beaches of Fort DeSoto or paddle our way around Honeymoon Island. Let's kick back, kayak, and catch crimson sunsets. Let's trade snow boots for bathing suits. Let's make today and tomorrow a beach day. Let's shine. Plan your escape at visitstpeteclearwater.com.
One reason for joining a company often becomes the most important reason for why you stay or don't. It's called work culture. At Cromwell Media, the owner of this radio station, we put a lot of energy into creating an environment that supports each individual and celebrates them as our teammates. This month, we're saluting Drew Chester in our sales department, who's enjoying his 5th anniversary. And Josh Kuhn, a part-time host on 102.9 The Buzz, passes the 3-year mark. Want to join Drew and Josh? Send us your resume at together@cromwellmedia.com.
The Nashville Sheriff is hiring correctional officers. Earn $52,500 after paid training and probation. Positions are available immediately. You must be 21 and over with a high school diploma or GED. Come join our family. That's $52,500 with great benefits. Apply now at sheriff.nashville.gov/apply or call 615-862-8170. Earn $52,500. Stop searching. Apply now. The Nashville Sheriff.
Hey, it's Chase McCabe, and in the past, hair loss was inevitable, but now you have a choice for thicker, fuller hair. Trust the experts with 45 years of experience at Hair Club. They've helped more than 500,000 clients love their hair again. No matter your age, stage of hair loss, or budget, Hair Club can customize a solution for you. And for a limited time, you can get 10% off when you book a free consultation today at hairclub.com/chase. That's hairclub.com/chase. Get in on the conversation at 615-737-1025. The game text line is driven by Wilson County Hyundai. Online at wilsoncountyhyundai.com.
Today on Hey Culligan, smooth skin and soft hair comes from where? Here's Mike.
Hey Culligan, I've tried every conditioner, lotion, and body wash known to man, and my skin still feels like sandpaper.
It could be your water, Mike.
Oh, that's harsh.
More like hard water. Are you interested in smart, high-efficiency water softeners from Culligan Water?
Huh?
Want baby smooth skin and soft, luxurious hair?
Yeah, can you hurry? I have a date tonight.
We're already on the way, Mike. Let us help you out with the free in-home water test from a local Culligan water expert at Culligan.com.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Attention all fire and safety line experts. Middle Tennessee's fastest growing fire protection company is looking for experienced service technicians, designers, and sprinkler system experts like you. Tired of working for a large corporate employer? Work for a company where you're more than just a number. Jarrett Fire Protection is owned and operated by Nashville natives and wants to invite you to grow with their amazing team.
Hi, I'm Jason Jarrett, owner of Jarrett Companies. I'm looking to hire experienced sprinkler experts and will offer a sign-on bonus of up to $5,000 for certified professionals. In addition to our great benefits that include a 401k match, PTO, and top pay with annual bonuses, we will also provide you with the top-of-the-line tools, trucks, and equipment that you need to grow your career. Our customer base is large and business is booming with many opportunities for advancement. Give us a call or go online to jarrettfire.com and apply today to become a member of our family and protect our community. That's JARRETT fire.com. Jarrett Companies, where we are above and beyond industry standards.
Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Broadcasting on Alexa.
I appreciate that.
And other smart speakers. 102.5 and 106.3. 1, 2, 3.
I think it was a good game. You had a couple of big plays.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Covering your teams and the news of the day.
Ladies and gentlemen.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
It was pleasant to listen to.
With Caroline Fenton, Willie Donick, and former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason.
You are hands down my favorite radio personalities of all time.
On 102.5 and 106.3, The Game, and the Game Nashville app.
With no further ado.
Back here, Caroline, Willie, and D-Mase. Chase McCabe live on the floor at Bridgestone Arena as the ceremony has wrapped up. David Foyle announcing his retirement. Barry Trotz introduces the new general manager. He'll take over July 1st of the Nashville Predators. And I'm pleased to be joined now by former governor of the state of Tennessee and now part of the ownership group with the Nashville Predators. Bill Haslam is with us. Governor, thanks so much. Good to see you.
Hey, Chase, it's fun to be here. That was a special day, wasn't it?
It was. And, you know, you've obviously been around. You've seen what David Foyle has built as the general manager of this team. I mean, it's not often that you see something built literally from the ground up. There's nothing. When he was introduced and Barry Trotz was hired as the coach, they didn't even have a name. And they were able to build that, and now to see this today is pretty special.
Yeah, Barry said in the early days they literally were working on folding tables. They had nothing. I mean, they didn't have a name, they didn't have a jersey, they didn't have players. They had nothing. And to have, I mean, I'm sitting there. I mean, it's pretty rare. You're sitting up there watching the guy that's won the most games in NHL history as a GM, and the guy who's won the third most games as a coach together on a stage doing what I hope and truly do think will be a flawless handoff.
Yeah, I do too. And, the fact that he had that year or so to work with David, in the early days before things even really got started, I think that's huge.
I thought it was one of the great points that Barry made. Like, I've been a coach, but, one of the great ways to learn a business is to be there when it's small, when it's just starting. And Barry did that here. I mean, he was here, like I said, he helped pick out the carpet, literally. So he's been more than a coach, and I think those early days with the Preds not just great for Predators history, but are great for understanding what really happens in an organization.
So you have been the governor of a state. You've run businesses, obviously, with your family.
Right.
Why do you want to run a hockey team?
Well, the good news is I don't have to run it. The good news is Barry's going to be running the team. So let's be real clear there. When the draft comes around, I won't have any voice in who we're picking. But I think this. Listen, I got interested in the Predators for 3 reasons. Number one, I love sport. I'm like you guys. I'm like your listeners. I love sports. I mean, when I'm at home at night, I'm watching sports. Number two, I think this is a great business as well. I mean, we've seen how the Predators have grown as an organization. Third, I believe in Nashville. And investing in part of who Nashville is, and the Predators have become part of the heart of Nashville. I mean, you talk to people around the league about Nashville, and one of the things they say is, "Wow, y'all really are woven into the community," and I love that.
Yeah, and I think that's really cool to hear. As somebody that's a prominent member of our state. And you're coming in at an interesting time joining this group. There is a transition. We're talking about the transition with David Poyle and Barry Trotz.
Right.
There's a transition with you and with Herb Fritsch, who is the chairman in this ownership group. So how important is that part of it to not just come in and boom, take over, but actually have that transition process?
It doesn't work in all circumstances, but if you can do what I think we're going to do on the ownership side, and I think what David and Barry are going to do, where you have this kind of smooth handoff, then you really do get a running start. I mean, if you think about a 100-yard dash, we'll swap sports here for a minute. You start from a stand, you're there in your blocks getting started. On a relay, the reason that 4 guys can run around faster is because you get a running start. And I think what we're going to have both, hopefully on the ownership side as well as the GM side, is running starts.
Talking to Governor Bill Haslam here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. So when people see a change, when people see whether it's a coaching change or GM change or ownership change, they want immediate answers to questions of, okay, well, how are you going to go win the Stanley Cup, and who's going to be here and all of that. It doesn't quite work that way. It's just like when you were elected governor. You couldn't walk in and just change everything right away. Right. So how important is that going to be to understand that you got to be patient, and you yourself have to be patient in that role to let things play out, get to know the people that are going to be involved in your organization?
Yeah, one of the things that, like, from my standpoint, that I want to do is part of the ownership group, and is the new part is make sure you know what you don't know.
Yeah,
you get in trouble when you think you know something that you don't. So I think you one of the things I'm working really hard to do is, what are those things that I don't know that I might think I do? And so I'm listening and have a lot of conversations, and Barry's doing the same thing. One of the things that immediately impressed me about Barry is, I mean, like I said, the guy's won the 3rd most games of all time in the NHL, but he's still asking questions. The whole time I'm with him or when around people, he's asking questions, trying to understand things better, and I love that. So you're right. I mean, hey, all of us want to win a Stanley Cup, right? I mean, David said in the press conference, like he said, he's the winningest, but he's still really sad that we didn't win a Stanley Cup while he was general manager. That's not for a lack of passion about doing it, and Barry will be the same way. And so my approach is always, you come up with a strategy and a plan, and then you work the heck out of that plan.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned you're a sports fan and you're a Nashville fan, obviously. What kind of was some of your early days of sports that got you into that?
Well, my dad actually came to Knoxville to play football at the University of Tennessee. He's a kid that couldn't have gone to college anywhere, but General Neyland offered him a football scholarship, and so he kind of tracks back everything, business success, things he's learned about life to things he learned playing sports. And so we grew up that same way, and you learn things being on a team. You learn about what work looks like. You learn about competing, and you learn that hopefully that the team's bigger than you. And those are the things that still make sports fun to me. I mean, to me, when we're at Bridgestone and we're up 3-2 and there's 3 minutes left in the third period, it's the intensity is real, right? And every swap of the puck, everybody's holding their breath, and that's the fun part about sports.
You have seen Nashville grow,
right,
and become the it city, with the Music City Center, this
right.
building,
right.
Obviously the stadium and that whole situation of
right.
potentially building a new stadium. How important is it for the Predators, the Titans, Nashville SC, the Sounds, anybody involved in sports to work together to help continue to grow this city?
I think it's one of the nice things about Nashville. Is I was in a meeting recently that everybody, the Titans, Nashville SC, the Preds, everybody's there talking about what we can do to continue to promote this to be one of the best sports towns in the country. And that I think fans want that. It's not like, I'm for the Preds, but I don't like the Titans. So that's just not. Yeah. Maybe there's a few people that way, but that's not how most people work. And they want everybody to do well. And I don't. People have said, well, gosh, with soccer, with Nashville SC coming, is that going to hurt hockey? I don't think that's how it works. I think Nashville's a big enough city to handle all that and more.
No doubt about it. Governor, thanks so much for doing this today. It's nice to meet you. Nice to have you here. And this is a new era, but going to be a fun one for sure.
I think so. And to me, like I said, that was you got to see not just history being made, but something that's rare. You got to see somebody who was there at the very beginning, bring in somebody else who was there at the very beginning to hopefully push everything on to the next level and bring the Stanley Cup that we all want.
It is going to be fun, that is for sure.
Thanks,
it'll be good to get to know you
Thanks,
as well.
Yeah, I love to help. Thanks so much.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Governor Bill Haslam. We'll have more. We'll turn things over to Caroline and Derek when we come back here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
The college football season never stops. ESPN college football analyst Trevor Manich joins Stillman and Company every Tuesday at 4:30.
They've got to do what Nick Saban in Alabama has done so successfully over the last 10 years.
Presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
For the love of Tennessee at dawn. For the love of the fight. For the love of having nowhere else you'd rather be. For the love of Tennessee. Travel safe. Brought to you by the Tennessee Department of Tourist Development, the Tennessee Association of Broadcasters, and this station.
Looking for a career with purpose or have that passion for youth development? Boys and Girls Clubs of Middle Tennessee provides a safe place where youth gain the tools to learn, lead, and reach their full potential. And that starts with you, offering competitive pay and free after-school care for employees. Learn more at bgcmt.org.
This week's Nashville's best deal is 312 Pizza Company, serving the best pizza in town, as well as Chicago-style eats like Chicago dogs, Italian beef sandwiches, and more. It's also a great spot to grab a beer and watch your favorite team on the big screen. 312 Pizza Company, 371 Monroe Street in Germantown. Head to theGameNashville.com/deals and get half off a $30 gift card. It's 312 Pizza Company, while supplies last.
Want to weigh in on the conversation? It's a brain booster. Slide into our DMs. Or just text or call at 615-737-1025. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Having some fun in the midday.
Okay, that's really fun.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
It's a good source of energy because it's live.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, and the Game Nashville app. We are live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Game Studios, streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. Our video streaming is brought to you by Superbook Sports. D-Mase and I here at Barrel House at Bridgestone Arena. D-Mase, how we doing?
Hey, we're doing wonderful. Big announcement today. I think it caught everybody off guard last night.
Mm-hmm.
And you knew it was big. I pulled up into the parking structure, and it said lot full. I said, okay.
It's press conference day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I absolutely illegally parked, so I hope the good people at Bridgestone Arena do not tell me. I hope my car is still there. But
Please don't.
That's the biggest news. And yesterday, I kept saying I feel like I'm drinking news from a fire hose because it was the Nino Niederreiter news, and then it was the Tanner Jeannot news, and then it's the David Poile news that he will be retiring and Barry Trotz will take over as the Predators general manager, the second general manager of the franchise on July 1st. But I want to start here because this was overall my takeaway, and it was a good presentation and a good honoring of David Poile and his career and what he has done in Nashville, and also a very warm welcome back to Barry Trotz, of course, the first head coach of the Predators franchise and Predators history, coming back to be the second general manager of all time. But this was overall my takeaway, that we should and will honor David Poile for what he did for this franchise, for what he did for this city. David Poile helped make Nashville a hockey town. David Poile helped put the Predators on the map. David Poile constructed a team to go to the Stanley Cup final, to win a President's Trophy in 2018, made a whole lot of bold moves to get there. And I think that we need to remember David Poile for that, for everything that he has done for this city, for this franchise, for hockey in Nashville. So let's put that there, because you cannot take that away from David Poile, what he's done for this town.
That will be his legacy.
That's his legacy. Let's put that in its own little box over here, because that is true while simultaneously being true that this team needed a change. Yeah. That David Poile needed to go. And you could even make the argument that maybe perhaps David Poile outstayed his welcome by a few years. That this team has only regressed over the past couple of years, and that it needed a fresh face, fresh ideas, just, some life pumped into the franchise, just something new that this franchise needed in order to bring it into, the next stage of the Predators. Because 2017 and 2018, it's behind us. It's been long enough. You need to start bringing this team into the next generation, into the new core of building this team up to eventually become Stanley Cup champions, not just getting to the dance, but winning it all. So that's overall my takeaway from it all is David Poile should be celebrated and will be celebrated for everything that he has done. But also, it's time for a change.
Yeah, there is, and I'm sure there will be some type of statue or something commemorating, David Poile's success that he's had here in Nashville, and rightfully so. But like you said, they needed some fresh, new ideas. They didn't necessarily get a fresh face because Barry, he may be a little bit older. But he's
and
still,
been here.
But he's still. I mean, his face does look fresh. He was out. He was ready. He had the nice
putting his retinol on.
The beard was nice and edged up. So
he looks fresh.
He looks fresh, but you're not getting a necessarily a fresh face. This is a guy that was part of this organization for a very long time and had a lot of success. But unfortunately, they were not able to win the Stanley Cup under Barry Trotz. But he gets another opportunity to sort of try to put this team back in a position where they are competing, like they did in 17, 18, for that period of years. I think it was like a 4 or 5 year period where that team, this team was one of the better teams in the National Hockey League, and that's where he wants to get it back to. And you're right. They needed fresh ideas. I think David's, unfortunately, it happens, in all sports. Sometimes you overstay your welcome. And a lot of times, and it goes along with players too, a lot of times it's because you feel your team is just one player or one season away from winning that championship. And you've birthed you helped birth this organization, and you've seen it through the good times and the bad times, and you're holding on because you're thinking like this is the year. Well, that year never came, and it was evident, I believe, to David that he needed to step away and allow someone else to take on that mantle of possibly winning a Stanley Cup here in Nashville.
And the timing is right, too, because I feared that the longer and longer
People
David Boyle may have stayed
Yeah.
would have tarnished that legacy a bit. That I think already there are so many fans that have such a bad taste in their mouth about David Boyle because they're so focused on recent history and they haven't looked at, his career as a whole, that I fear that sentiment only would have grown the longer that he would have stayed here. And I think the biggest thing for fans, too, is I almost felt a sense of relief for the fans because you bring up Barry Trotz and his history with the Predators, his history with David Boyle, and I think that's a very fair point to make and one that I want to get into. But I think that it's almost a sense of relief for fans because they now have something. I don't want to say to look forward to because that doesn't feel right. That maybe sounds like a total knock on David Boyle, but it is something to look forward to.
Something to look forward to, yes.
It's now that we know, okay, after all of years, probably the last couple of years, hoping, okay, are we going to sell? Are we going to go in a different direction? Is David Boyle going to step down? Are we going to get a new general manager? Some new things, some new fresh ideas. Now fans feel relieved of, okay, we know it's happening. We know that David Boyle is going to move on. We know that this team is selling. Of all of this pent-up anxiety almost of, are they going to make a change? Are they going to move on? Are they going to recognize that the franchise isn't going in the right direction? Now we know that they have recognized that it's not going in the right direction, that if you're not going up, you're going in the wrong direction. And that's kind of where the Preds have been, has just kind of been right, even keel right there in the middle.
Yeah, it's been and we talked about this last week, and it was brought up. Hey, listen, I think the fans are getting to a point, or they are at a point where they're looking across the river and they're seeing what the Titans are doing, and they're saying the Titans are not satisfied. The Titans want to do something else, and they're waiting for the Predators to do something to get them energized again, to get the fan base energized again. I think this organization, I don't think they were going backwards. I just think it was at a standstill. And the fans didn't like the standstill. The fans felt they were patient enough, which they were. You gotta give it to them. They've been very patient with this organization. And when everything became a standstill, when it seemed to the fans that everything became in neutral, that's when you started hearing, hey, we may need to make a change. What about going in this direction, whether it's the GM, head coach, players, and then they start throwing everything in the hat. Like, nobody's off limits here.
Right.
And I think, whether people want to admit it or not within the building, they heard the cries.
Yeah.
They heard it all. And you don't want to get to a point where you hear the cries, you don't do anything about it, and the only way the fans can show you that they care is if they stop coming.
Right.
You don't want to get to that point. So you got to be sort of proactive. And it seems like they've been sort of geared toward this the last couple of years, trying to find a way to sort of segue out of, David being the GM. And, I think it worked out for the organization. I think it worked out for David. I think it worked out for Barry, that he was a part of this organization at its conception. He had some success. He goes away, wins the Stanley Cup. It's like the prodigal son is coming home now, and away this franchise go. And I'm sure the fans here in Nashville, those that are fans of the Predators, and just those that are fans of sport, Nashville sports, period, they got to like this move. I don't know what's going to happen with Barry. I don't know if this organization is going to, ascend up, or is it going to – I don't know. But what I do know today is a lot of the fans feel a lot better that they chose to make a change now.
That there's at least a change.
Exactly.
And you bring up Barry Trotz, and I think it's a very fair point of this team, in my opinion, needed new and fresh ideas, new and fresh faces, young hockey minds to come in and almost breathe a breath of fresh air into this franchise. Barry Trotz isn't exactly that. Barry Trotz has been in Nashville before. He was the first coach of this franchise. And then, of course, he won a Stanley Cup with Washington, went on to be the coach of the New York Islanders, had a good bit of success with the Islanders, never won a cup with the Islanders, but, they won a good bit of games. Barry Trotz is not that new, fresh, completely new face, ideas person that maybe a lot of us, including myself, wanted to go in. Now, I'm not saying I'm against the Barry Trotz move at all. I don't have no idea what kind of executive Barry Trotz is going to be. We know Barry Trotz is a good coach. And sometimes good coaches can be good, front office people. Sometimes former players can be great coaches, but not always. We know Barry Trotz is a good coach. We don't know Barry Trotz's experience with personnel because he has no experience with personnel. It's the same kind of thing that we said about Ran Carthon. I have no idea what kind of general manager Ran Carthon is going to be because he's never been one. He had experience with personnel. We know a lot of people who say a lot of great things about Ran Carthon, but we just don't know what his experience is going to be like. My question with Barry Trotz is, how new of a mind is Barry Trotz going to be for this organization? And it reminds me of a move that another team in this state made not too long ago, and I want to get into that coming up next. And, of course, your thoughts about the move, your thoughts about the trades that happened over the weekend. We'll get into all of those. Your phone, 615-737-1025. It's Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025, 1063 The Game.
It's a new era in Smashville.
The Predators have confirmed that General Manager David Poile will retire on June 30th. Barry Trotz, the first coach in Predators history, will return to the organization and take over as the General Manager.
Keep it locked to your home for Smashville. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And the Game Nashville app.
Gary Ashton here. People walk up to me all the time and say, don't sell without the intel. This message couldn't be more true. Right now, it's a fantastic time to buy or sell your home in Nashville, but you can't do it without the intel. No one has more intel than the Gary Ashton team. So what is this intel we keep hearing about? Intel so you can sell your home without stagings or showings? Intel on where to find your next home so that you can sell your current home while the market is hot? And intel that helps you win the buyer battle and cash in on your home equity. For more intel, visit GaryAshton.com. where we can give you the insight and the most up-to-date real estate intel in Nashville. Plus, the Gary Ashton team is the official real estate team of the Nashville Predators. Get the confidence to sell your home and find the dream address without the stress. Visit us today at GaryAshton.com. That's GaryAshton.com. And remember, don't sell without the intel.
At the law office of Amanda J. Gentry, we are committed to defending your rights. We have a team committed to helping you navigate the court system, whether you've been accused of a crime or you're going through a messy divorce and custody. Call our team to help you navigate this system. We are here to protect your rights, to demand your rights, to enforce your rights. 615-604-6263. 615-604-6263. AmandaJGentry.com.
Hey, are you seeking relief? Maybe you just want to enhance your day or night. Did you know there are legal THC products available right here in Tennessee? Yeah, really. You can have legal THC products shipped directly to the comfort of your home. Yes, comfort in cannabis is only a website away. Visit greentreescompany.com. That's Green Trees with a Z, and change your life today.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
TSU basketball lives on 102.1 The Ville. Join Coach Brian Petty Collins and the Tigers for every great moment in the OVC. On your home for TSU basketball, 102.1 The Ville and the Ville app.
Hey, this is Pete Weber. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk. ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. I have a thought on the Predators' new general manager, but before we get into that, I will take it to Chase and Willy, who have the president, Sean Henry.
Thank you, Caroline. That's right. Yep, we're down here with Sean Henry, the president and CEO of the Nashville Predators. And Sean, we're all just kind of sitting here, I think, taking a breath now because things have wrapped up. You know, Barry's doing his one-on-ones and David's doing his one-on-ones. Governor Haslam's here. But what a special day for this franchise to honor the first GM, to welcome back the first head coach as the second GM.
It's incredible. I mean, Will and I were just talking about what it was like 26 years ago. Willie was here. I was not. But it really is like a storybook. And it would be a great story if it was just the first coach coming back and replacing his mentor. It's a little better story when both of them will be enshrined together in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't tell a story with one without the other. And, to be part of it, David kept talking about how lucky he was up on stage. I'm the lucky guy. I get to work with, if there's ever a picture of the three of us, it's going to be, two Hall of Famers and, the schmuck. Like, the luckiest man alive. And that's how I feel. But I think everyone in our organization feels that way too. The other is to have the next 4 months for them to work together is incredible. I mean, Barry, he was made for this job. He happened to be a coach for 25 years. But, he started as a scout. He's coached at every level. He's always been part of shaping rosters. And it's not just that he's a coach and he'll play whoever he's dealt with. It's really the opposite. He's always been in the scouting meetings. So he's a little bit different, and his qualifications speak for themselves. I mean, who else would you want in that role?
Yeah.
And that's what you kind of start and end with when you want to hire someone. And, David and I have been talking about, Barry for a long time. It's one of those things where, when he left here, David said someday he'll be back here. And when he left Washington, said someday he'll be back here. And, this summer when he just kept passing on job after job after job. And every single job out there was his if he wanted it. And the fact that he didn't take any of them got us a little bit excited because, obviously we've been talking about, all right, what will the search process look like? It starts with our 3 AGMs, who are all going to be GMs. There's no doubt about it. And then who else would it be? And should we start in November, January, in the playoffs, after the playoffs? Everyone follows a different path. Once we realized that, well, maybe Barry would want to do this. And when Barry reached out to him around the holidays, it just fast-tracked from there. Very grateful to the Islanders and Lou Lamoriello for letting us talk to him.
Yep.
And then also, holding it tight, that we did. So it really is a storybook, and I'm just so excited about it. Barry was one of the first guys I met when I came here, and to me, I was meeting the head coach. I heard he was a really special guy. What I didn't realize is how much he would be part of making this home for me, because that's what he and his wife do, and they're incredible family.
So David mentioned in the press conference that there was kind of some conversations that this has been building up for a few years now, and he came to you after the playoffs last season and said, this is it, I'm ready to do this. So is that when things, I guess, in your mind really picked up of, oh, this is real, this is actually going to happen?
Well, it's funny you say it that way because it really has been for 3 or 4 years. We got to plan for this day, we have to plan for this day, and there are certain things he wanted to get accomplished in hockey operations and organizationally, and it was always in the offing, right? It was someday. And, in, I don't know, April, May, June, whenever it was, this should be my last year. And even though we talked about it for years, it still hit you in the face a little bit, with the shovel. Because you realize, wow, I'm going to have to do this job without him. And I honestly, my job is easy because of David Poile. I look forward to how easy it's going to be, too, because of Barry Trotz. But at the time, I was still thinking, it's going to be someone else, fill in the blank. And maybe it was one of our guys, maybe it was someone else. But it was surreal thinking about doing this without, David. And, again, fortunately, though, he's going to stay on as an advisor, which is incredible for me to always have him a phone call away.
Sean Henry is with us. So, Sean, what's exciting to me is, I think David Poile said that Barry Trotz gets credit for coining the phrase the Predator way. So he obviously knows the foundation. But I think it's exciting, too, that he's been other places and had a lot of success, and he can kind of bring those new ideas back here. So you have that blend of keeping things moving in the same direction but bringing in new ideas.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I mean, he left here well qualified, but then he got the chance to go work in 2 different organizations, organizations that are run a little bit differently than each other and then us. And you get to steal or borrow, a few things from the Islanders and from the Capitals, and then just life experiences. 9 years later, the things he's seen, the success he's had, we're going to benefit from. And he worked now for 2 general managers that are Hall of Famers and a newer general manager. So he was so involved in Washington, being a first-time general manager over him there, and then going to work with Lou. If you tried not to learn anything, you'd come back with incredible knowledge and experiences. So when you're someone like Barry, that you're an insatiable sponge to learn things, it's incredible, how ready he is. And again, I always go back to, is there anyone else you'd want for that job besides David? And the answer is no for me.
And being a first time, like you said, he's got David, but he's also got the other guys underneath him that he already has the connection with, right? Jeff Kilty was in the first training camp, right, as a player for Barry Trotz. We know about Brian Poyle, and obviously Scott Nickel was one of his trusted Barry Trotz kind of guys as a player too. So that relationship really should make this pretty seamless.
It really will, and as he said, he's going to not just rely on those guys. Those guys shine in their jobs. David made the joke of, I don't even know what I do anymore with those 3 guys doing everything. But Barry's going to be able to enjoy that same foundation. Each one of those guys will be able to do things slightly differently too. And as great as David is, all of us, once you start reporting to someone different, there are probably 1 or 2 things you start doing that you didn't do before, and you get to shine even brighter. So it really is exciting. I feel like Elf. Smiling's my favorite because I'm glad it's out. I'm almost glad it broke last night, to be honest with you, because it made today even more of a celebration. But the past, 2-ish months or whatever it's been, having this knowledge that it was coming, it was hard to keep under wraps because you were so excited about it. It's like buying the greatest present in the world for your kids a month before Christmas. You want to tell them. You want to open it now. And that's what Smashville got. We have a gift because those 2 guys will work together for the next 4 or 5 months and then almost reverse roles from advisor to GM, GM to advisor. But, again, Barry is so fortunate to have David by his side, and David's fortunate to have Barry by his.
And it's interesting that as they start this journey, you're at such a critical time where big decisions are being made, right? Tough decisions, not easy decisions. I thought it was great how the team performed with all that going on in the backdrop last night. That said a lot about the character of the guys because, you're looking at the short term and you're looking at the big picture too.
It was amazing. I was watching the broadcast, watching you shine literally on the bench, letting all Smashville know that, Tanner just left the ice. And what does that mean? What's going to happen? But there are a lot of big decisions to be made, always hard ones. Whenever you move on a trade, you're losing a player, someone that meant a lot to a lot of people. Not just in fandom, but in the locker room itself. So you're absolutely right. You look at this road trip. They were riding a 3-game win streak, I believe. But in the middle of it, you lose 2 players that the players really enjoyed playing with. We all enjoyed watching them play, and that is hard. And I was looking at last night's game. What's it going to be? Is it going to be 10-0 us or them?
Yeah.
And fortunately, it was the right way, and it was a fun game to watch. But no doubt it was hard.
Sean Henry is with us, the president and CEO. And, I kind of used this joke earlier when you talk about how Barry and David will work together through this transition. I kind of pictured David on the phone with Tampa last night, and Barry's behind him going, hey, get 1 more draft pick. See if you get 1 more draft pick at it. Come on, one more. And like that. But you mentioned that, obviously it's hard to say goodbye to players that, are part of the team and guys like playing with. But, is that what is that like for you to kind of have them go through that process of maybe taking a step back to move forward into the future with the young talent that we're going to see over the next few years?
Well, you always have to be moving forward, whether it's tangible that day or maybe realized in a year or 2 or 3 years down the road. As an organization, you always have to be pushing forward. Progress is important, but sometimes that progress is just in the plan. And, when you trade for a draft pick, let alone 5 or 6 draft picks as we just did, or a former first-round pick coming in the package too between the 2 moves, that player is not showing up in Nashville with that trade. It's going to be a little bit down the road. But at the same time, we're always looking 10 years down the road while you're playing for today. Looking 10 years down the road, playing for today. The way, you plan contracts, you plan, who's next. And we are an organization that believes in succession planning in all things. It was Jeff Kogan to me. It was Tom to Herb, Herb to Bill. Now, David to Barry. It's the same thing on the pipeline and what you have in Milwaukee to where someone's going to go. Unfortunately, a lot of times that means someone is leaving. That means a lot to you. And it is the very worst part of what we all do. because you really do you fall in love with the people that are here. We're a family. And you think about it, it seems like someone's always going off to college, if you will, and it's hard, no doubt about it. But it's what the job is, and I don't envy GMs in any sport.
No.
When you work closely with them, you know how hard it is on them too, to say goodbye to somebody.
Well, Sean, appreciate this. This has been a fun day for sure, and I know it's still going. We're going to talk to Barry and David here in a little bit, but thanks so much for stopping by, and congrats on pulling it off. It was a great ceremony.
Yeah, no, thank you guys. And Willie, you were here for the first one. I know you're going to tell that story later with Barry and David. But, yeah, things have changed a whole lot. But I'm really glad that we're getting back to Barry and welcoming him home to Smashville. It's going to be fun the next 6 months, and ideally it's going to be fun for the next 6-10 years, whatever it may be. So thank you, guys.
Caroline, I send it back to you and Derek.
All right, appreciate y'all. Again, that was Sean Henry, Predators President and CEO. Always appreciate him coming on and chatting with us. And I'll make very good points about, moving on from the David Poile to the Barry Trotz era of the Nashville Predators. And it is exciting things that are happening within this team. But I mentioned before the break, I said this move kind of reminds me of another move that was made by a team in this state. And that's the Predators bringing in Barry Trotz. Mm-hmm. It reminds me a lot of when the Tennessee Volunteers hired Philip Fulmer to be their next athletic director. That it felt like a very comfortable move. It was a name that everybody knew. It was a guy that everybody loved, and it felt like, okay, if we're in a position with our athletic department that we don't want to be in, or maybe the fans are a little bit disgruntled, it was probably different in Tennessee than it is in Nashville. It was a little bit more down in the dumps than it was with the Vols than it was with the Predators, but it's the same kind of idea. The fans were disgruntled. The fans were ready for a change, and they bring in Philip Fulmer, a name that everybody loves, everybody knows. And it just felt a little off, right? Because you fired him a few years ago, and then you bring him back, and you even promote him to a bigger position. That's kind of how I felt. It mirrors the same kind of situation, to me, in my opinion, with Barry Trotz. He was a coach that everybody loves and everyone still loves. But you moved on from him for a reason, and then here you are 10 years later giving him a promotion. I'm not saying that the Barry Trotz era with the Predators is going to look the same as it did with Philip Fulmer and the Tennessee Volunteers. We all hope and pray that it doesn't look the same with Barry Trotz and the Preds as it did with Philip Fulmer and the Vols. But that's just kind of how it felt to me. Is Barry Trotz a new enough mind, a fresh enough? Does he have fresh enough ideas coming in with the Predators, knowing that he has former relationships here, that he has a very strong relationship with David Poile that goes back even before the Predators with their time with the Washington Capitals before David Poile got to Nashville. So that's kind of how I look at it is you bring back a guy that everybody knows and loves, but let's not forget that you moved on from him for a reason. Just how much of a change is this really going to be? But also, in that same breath, Barry Trotz has been gone for 10 years. Yeah. Barry Trotz was in New York with Lou Lamoriello. He's probably picked up a whole lot of knowledge of the front office, of being an executive in his time in New York. So I'm not saying it's a complete comparison or a complete parallel. He is bringing in different expertise and experience in other very successful hockey clubs. But that's kind of my take on it is how new is it really? How fresh is it truly going to be?
Only time will tell. I think if this team – and they started it, and Chase sort of made light of it, when they were making the trades with Tanner Jeannot and what they got in return for Tanner Jeannot.
Mm-hmm. Which was a freaking haul, which we need to get into.
Exactly, and Chase sort of made the fun little remark, hey, was Barry behind, David, hey, see if you can
give
me
more
one more.
picks.
Exactly. So, being gone for that long, 10 years, experiencing other franchises, and seeing how they operate. Now, you can't really, put yourself in that position as a head coach because you got to worry about your team. You let the GM and everyone else do their job. You're in the mix, but your main job is to coach the guys on the ice. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure he was able to pick up some things. And frankly, I think the time he's had off has probably helped him out a lot because he didn't have to worry about players and coaching the game and game plans or anything else. He strictly, was here in whatever capacity with the Predators. I know it wasn't an official capacity, but he probably, sort of learned what was really going on behind the scenes, because he's been gone for a long time. And this 5, 6, 7 months he's been off, he's been able to sit back, kind of go through the organization, see how it's operating, see what's being needed, see how the roster looks and how it can get better. And then ultimately, when he is that guy in position, he can hit the ground running. So I think it was a good thing for him just to sort of sit back and watch and observe and sort of, ask questions and look at this team from a 50,000-foot view, because these are some things that I may want to change, meaning Barry, I may want to change when I get in that position that Dave is in.
Yeah, right, exactly. And that's, I think both things can be true, that you can be a little bit, you can have a little bit of speculation about, or, a little bit of maybe hesitation about the Barry Trotz move, understanding that, he does have such a close connection with David Poile. How much of a change can it truly be? But also understanding, like, he's been gone for a while.
Exactly.
And he's picked up a lot of things along the way throughout his career in the NHL. You've got a bunch of your thoughts. I see them lining up in the text line, so we'll get right into those. Coming up next, it's Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Every Wednesday at 8:30. Join Robbie and Rexroad for The Choice is Yours.
2 sports questions, 2 non-sports questions.
They'll answer a couple of questions about life and sports. The Choice is Yours is built by Jarrett Companies. You have a choice. So when you have a need for site and utility work, fire protection, concrete and asphalt services, the choice is simple. It's Jarrett Companies. For more, visit JarrettCompaniesInc.com. The choice is yours. Wednesdays at 8:30 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Okay, here, time to tell you about Lone Pronto down here on the ice surface. I'm about, I think, in the corner along the goal line here. I don't think I could shoot on net from where I'm sitting right here, but I am going to tell you about Lone Pronto. If you think mortgage rates are still super high, think again, because Lone Pronto wants you to know that you can just give them a phone call right now to see how low rates are, because it might be time to do that refinancing you've been putting off, or time to get back to house hunting, or even doing a full refi and getting extra cash to be able to address your financial needs. There's all kinds of options for you. So if you're getting fleeced with 20+% interest charges, it's time to change your strategy. And Lone Pronto can help you with that. All you've got to do is give them a call at 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
Middle Tennessee, you can count on an award-winning service team for all your home maintenance and improvement needs. Lee Company, we're A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau and trusted by thousands of homeowners in our community. Our team is ready to assist with all your home maintenance projects, heating and air conditioning, plumbing, electrical, appliance service, and more. Experience the convenience of calling one phone number for all your home maintenance needs. Call Lee Company today at 615-567-1000 or visit leecompany.com.
Actor Portrayal.
Hi, I'm Diane, and my husband Jack has low testosterone.
Hi, I'm Jack. I knew something was wrong when I went from feeling energetic and youthful to tired all the time and not sleeping well, putting on belly fat, and my sex drive just dropped.
The fun, active Heartland lifestyle we always enjoyed was disappearing. Then our sex life declined, and eventually we just stopped.
I had to do something, so Diane and I went to the sexual health specialists at Tennessee Men's Clinic. We learned that nearly half of men over 50 suffer from ED and low testosterone.
It was refreshing to hear that one size doesn't fit all. They have a variety of therapies depending on age, medical condition, and lifestyle. He's back to the man I fell in love with.
My energy's back. Our intimacy is better than it's been in years. I can't thank Tennessee Men's Clinic enough.
Your first visit to the Tennessee Men's Clinic is only $99. They have multiple treatment options for low T and ED. Book your appointment today. Call 615-208-9090 or book online at TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. Visit our website to learn more, including side effects. Treatments extra, results vary.
Sometimes he gets lonely and needs some company.
10 for 17 for 45 yards in his career with 1 interception.
This is one of those years where it's a step back for them.
And that'll create more one-on-one situations and make it easier for him to throw the ball down the field.
It's Stillman and Company.
You've got real talent.
With Jared Stillman. Weekdays from 2 to 6 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And the Game Nashville app. having some fun in the midday.
Yeah, that's awesome.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, The Game, and the Game Nashville app. D-Mase and I are up here at Barrel House at Bridgestone Arena, but we will send it down to Chase McCabe and Willy Donick with the new Predators general manager, Barry Trotz.
Thanks, Caroline. Yeah, Barry Trott's going to make his way over here in just a second. Taking pictures. Willie, is that the Day One Club we're seeing right now?
Pretty much.
Jack Diller, Barry Trotz, David Poyle, Brent Peterson, Jerry Helper, Terry Crisp.
Pete Rogers.
Pete Rogers. Yeah. What a group.
Yeah, all those guys were there for the first season, and a lot of them even the season before. Remember, they referred to this season where Nashville didn't have any players yet.
Yeah.
But they knew they had a team.
Season zero?
Season zero is a good way to say it, right? What they did was they basically, and this really, I think, laid the foundation. I think Barry will tell you, he's mentioned at the press conference, of how the league works and how things work outside of just in the trenches there when you're a coach, right? What they basically did was they had an entire season of scouting the NHL, and they were looking for players that might end up being eligible to be picked in the expansion draft. And if you didn't get them in the expansion draft, who do you like that maybe down the road you could find an avenue towards? I mean, that was an incredible process to learn from the ground up.
Yeah.
So, that take it full circle here. Here they are, 25, 26 years later, sitting here in a circle there doing a little photo op.
I know. It's fantastic. And Barry Trotz, Brent Peterson catching up. Obviously, Brent was on Barry's coaching staff for a long time as an assistant coach. And as Barry is making his way over here, just a lot of moving parts.
Yep. So many people want to talk to him. It's really something. We've only got about 10 more feet, but he'll probably talk to 4 more people on the way over here.
Yeah, but that's okay. That's okay. He's a friendly
guy.
He
is a tremendous ambassador. That is what, for people that are newer to town that maybe haven't been around since he's been here, I think that's what you're going to find.
Yeah.
He's got a great personal touch. He gets to know everybody. I'm talking about the media, the fans, the connection he makes with the community and things like that. It's a real valuable trait, I'd say.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it, getting to catch up with him again. You obviously covered Barry since the beginning. I was telling the story earlier. When I first started, Barry was still the head coach, and so I got to have some moments with him. I'm going to tell a story when he sits down, of how I met Barry Trotz, but as he's joining us now. So looking forward to this. The first ever head coach in Predators history, now the second ever general manager in Predators history. Barry Trotz joins us now, and Barry, Willie and I were just talking when you were here as the coach. I was starting my career as a broadcaster, but you and I met at a Franklin Road Academy soccer game when I was about 15 years old. Your daughter Shallon was playing, and I'm sitting up in the stands. You sat down next to me, and that's the first time I met Barry Trotz. And it was awesome.
Well, good. I sometimes feel like I'm really awesome, so I'm glad you thought of me that way. So that's very kind.
Did he yell at the refs or anything? Was he well behaved as a parent?
Very quiet.
I'm always quiet. I
set the example for the parents.
I got total respect for referees and that. I don't go there.
Yeah,
but yeah, Shallon. My daughter Shallon was here today with my granddaughter, and she was a good little soccer player. She could run.
Yeah, no doubt. So what's this like for you? First head coach in team history, and now get to be the GM, get to work with David for a little bit more, and then you'll take the reins July 1st.
It's surreal. I was, when I got the job in Nashville in '97, I was, it felt real, but it didn't feel real. And I have that same feeling, but with the same love. It's so great because I look around and I'm going to be working with people that I've known. I have relationships. I look at with staff members, all that. It is the best thing that I could ever wish for in this position, and to be coming back to a place that I love, not only the team but the city. And this was home, and it always has been home. And for me to replace David, people have no idea how much that means to me, because a lot of the things that I have had the opportunity to do and have some success at, I attribute to the mentorship of David Poyle and the opportunities he's provided me in my early years. And we were laughing there. I mean, the stories. I mean, I remember seeing David, who he didn't know me from Adam. I was in Hershey, Pennsylvania. I was a walk-on, not a very good hockey player, but as I said. And I saw him and Jack Button. I knew Jack Button, who was his right-hand man at the time, and I went up to the stands. He was sitting there, and this was David's first year, and I go there and I go, excuse me, and Mr. Button, and I didn't know David, and I said, I'm Barry Trotz, and Jack Button, who was a growly old guy, he said, God, I know who you are. I'm the one that invited you, and I said, well, I just want to thank you. And he says, listen, kid, the only reason that you're here is that you might be a good minor league leader someday or a coach. Well, I'm 20 years old.
You still had the dream.
I had the dream. I had the dream. I thought I was going to play for the Washington Capitals, and lo and behold, I'm so thankful that he said that to me. So when I got an opportunity, I went back and I finished my final year of junior, and then I got into coaching, and I coached at. I was a coach and general manager at. I guess I was 21 or 22 in my hometown of Dauphin, Manitoba, and usually they call the local kid back because the local team is deeply in debt and can't pay a real coach, and so I go back and learn the trade, and I had good success in the Manitoba Junior League, and so much so that I went to the University of Manitoba for a year when Wayne Fleming was because I had played for Wayne for a year. No, I was 22 when I went to Dauphin, so I had played for Wayne for a year, and my back had given out on me, and I went back and I was a general manager. I did all the recruiting. I did all that stuff, budgets, all those things that you did back in Tier 2. And then I went to the University of Manitoba, and the players are older than me. And, being a head coach and doing that and the management stuff that you have to do as a university, dealing with administrations and stuff like that. And then I was going to go and during that year when I was at Manitoba, Jack Button reached out to me and said, Barry, we're looking for an area scout just for Manitoba. And I was doing that anyways. I was doing that every night. I was going out and watching the Tier 2 league for recruits, for the University of Manitoba. I'd go to Brandon and see the Western Hockey League. I was trying to find players that would, come to the University of Manitoba and play. And he phoned me and said, I'd like you to do some part-time scouting. And I started doing that, and they liked what I was doing. And then Brian Murray, who was my coach in junior, who is now the head coach of the Washington Capitals, phoned me and says, I wonder if you could do some pre-scouting. So I started doing that, and one thing led to another, and then at the end of the year, they invited me to the draft, and I was going to go sign up as the assistant GM and assistant coach with the Moose Jaw Warriors, and I got asked by Jack Button again. We have a scout that is thinking about retiring. Would you consider being a Western scout and covered in Western Canada and in the United States? And from that point, I said, I'll think about it. And then the smartest person that for me has been my wife. She's always led me the right way. She says, you like coaching and you can do that, but this seems like something that you might have some interest in. Why don't you do it? And if you could always go back coaching. So I came on as the Western scout for the Washington Capitals, moved to Regina. And then the next year, Jack called me and said, we want to make you the head Western scout. and they moved me out to Vancouver. And my first draft, we got our first 2 picks came out of Western Canada. The first one was Olaf Kolzig in the first round, and Byron Defoe in the second round, and they ended up having really good careers. And so, the one thing led to another, and then I thought we were about to buy a house and move to Vancouver. I said, this must be my calling, and lo and behold, Brian was really good. Brian Murray would really involve me. He didn't know if I wanted to coach or be a scout yet, so he involved me in a lot of coaching stuff. So at the end of that year, we're about to buy a house. My wife says, maybe just phone Jack. He might want to, in case we have to move again. And I said, no, he just made me Western Scout and moved us out here. We've already moved, twice in 2 years. So he's not going to move me again. And lo and behold, he says, oh, the draft is out coming in Vancouver. I was going to talk to you next week. So we had to hold on the house, and I ended up going to Baltimore as an assistant coach. And then I became head coach in Baltimore. Did some pre-scouts, did some scouting, all that. And then moved up to Portland, was a head coach there. And then I started signing I'll say the minor league players, but the depth players with the agents, and they give me a budget and started doing that. We won championships up there. And then I got the opportunity in Nashville. And that first year, as I said, in Nashville, where we were picking out carpet, we were doing all that stuff.
This place wasn't even done yet.
Yeah, Sean Henry gave you credit for picking out the carpet.
I appreciate it. Yeah. Well, one of the best statements is we couldn't decide on the color, and Paul Gardner, who had a good sense of humor. Actually, it was David who has a sneaky good humor. I said, we were picking out which one do you like better. He goes, really, does it matter? You're not going to be here when it's worn out. You're not going to be here probably when it's worn out. And lo and behold, I fooled him. I stayed for a while.
Yeah, it's so natural to have you back in the fold. I mean, you're just jumping right back in here, and it is, so seamless. But I think a lot of people would be curious, how valuable the things you picked up along the way as you moved through Washington, you win a championship, you lifted up the Islanders organization that hadn't had a lot of success over a long period of time. How valuable as you bring that stuff back here?
Oh, tremendously. Because I was used to how David did things.
Yeah.
And when trust me, I can say without a doubt, and it's no disrespect to any other teams do things differently. Every organization does things differently. This is a very well-tuned organization. It's incredible. But there are some things that other teams do that you go, you know what, that's not a bad idea. Mm-hmm. Or this, and you ask the reasons why they did it that way. Because I that's one thing I've always done is, okay, tell me, I'm coming from, I always use the term, I'm got a new dance partner. So I want to learn the steps.
Yeah.
And so I would ask those questions, and they would give me some very thorough answers of why they believe that way works for them. It might not work here.
Yeah.
But what it does is just give you more information, more ways that you say, you know what, this market, this organization, every organization keeps evolving, and a lot of that knowledge becomes very, very, very valuable and useful as you go forward. It might be a way to merge areas of your organization that are not disconnected, but even connect them more, just with a little tweak here or there. So I think those experiences that that I've had are going to be invaluable, and they also allow me to ask questions that I probably wouldn't have asked before, which so that it just tells me it's a different way of thinking.
How similar and how different are, say, David Poile and Lou Lamoriello, a guy that you work with a lot of time? Because those guys have shown a long track record of success. They have different viewpoints. Are they more similar than we might believe, or are they completely different?
They're more similar in the areas that are really important to anybody. They are people. I mean, they if you work for them, they take care of you in terms of anything that you need in terms of, and it doesn't have to be hockey related. If you got had some difficulty away from the ice or anything, they are the first guys that you're going to call and the first guys that would really take care of you. And that element of that, they are so similar. And
that goes a long way.
And you hear stories about the way Lou runs his thing, and the way he runs it is different from David, but at the same time they're so similar as people. They really are, and it's just the way they do business, if you will, are different. But the people part, and that's probably why they both have had massive success in this business, because they're sort of like, if you work for them, they've got your back all the time, and that is not, and I've got a lot of friends in this business. That's not how it's. That's not usually the way it is. I'm not. I'm not about. I'm all about team. Willie, you know that from day one. You can get accomplished a lot as a group. And I use this saying, and this is I've had a lot of Mitch Kornisms, and but one of mine is that if you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, go with a group. And I always believe that the strength is in a group, and it shows in the teams that I've had. Even with the championship team that we had in Washington, there was a lot of talent. There are a lot of good individuals, but until we became a really good team, we weren't going to win anything. But it is a process. And, when I went there, I said, if this group, we keep this group together and we add a couple pieces, I thought we could win a cup in 4 years, and lo and behold, we did. And we won 2 President's Trophies, but I actually thought that first year was building culture, and we did. Year 2 was we won the President's Trophy, and we started really believing in that culture. Year 3, I thought we had the best team. We did. But we weren't ready mentally to go to that ugly place that you have to go, that you don't think you can go, to win a championship. And we were just off a bit. And losing that year, we needed time to heal. Like, that hurt. And I said we were going to win after that. I just knew we were going to win. Even though we had to move some very good pieces. You think about Justin Williams. There's a guy, serial winner. We had to move on, but his impact on our team the 2 years that we had him was lasting. So when I'm looking for, say a trade, in my, I can look at all the analytics, but do you bring the intangible? And I look at a guy like Ryan McDonough's taken a couple cups away from me, because as in the Islanders, we were battling them hard, and they were a great team. They really are. They got the great DNA, and he was a huge part of it. But a guy like Ryan McDonough is a serial winner. When times get tough, Ryan McDonough will be at the front of the line. An analytics guy might not be, and I say that with all due respect. There's what Brian McDonough brings. There is not an analytic in the world that can measure it. So I keep going back to him because he's a serial winner. He's won everywhere he's gone, and it probably pains him when they more than anything than when they don't. And those type of things are very valuable to me, because I've learned that over time. It's the journey. Sometimes you get focused on the cup and the parade and all that, and you never get there because you don't stay with the process. Yeah. And and I don't, like I say, I don't want to. I'm not disrespectful for analytics or anything like that. There's not an analytic for it, so that's the only way I can describe it. But winning's hard in this league. It really is. And what David's done with being in the playoffs as many times with the franchise, it's crazy. Our next game, you look at the Penguins. They won a lot of, they won some cups, and they're in the fight for their life to get in this year.
Yep.
And you're led by, a couple of the top 100 players that have ever played this game in Crosby and Malkin, and they're still great players. It's so hard to win in this league, and so, it's like I'm in coaching. I've been in a long time. If you said, hey, well, you just got in the playoffs. It's actually quite disrespectful because you don't know how hard it is and how demanding it is. There's some teams that are so talented that are going to make it. It's maybe not as hard, but for the rest of this, there's like 3 of those teams, and the other 29 or so, teams in the league, 28 teams, they're just, they're grinding every day, and I have no idea how hard it is.
Yeah. Barry, it's so good to see you again. Welcome back. Welcome home.
Thank you.
And we're going to do this quite a bit. We're getting kicked off the ice here. So
all right, no problem. I have a little bit I'm out of practice a little bit. I've had a couple months off.
It's all good.
All my answers are very long-winded, as they usually are.
It's all good. Thanks so much for doing this, and we'll see you again soon. Caroline, back to you.
Dang, the new GM on his first day gets kicked off the ice. Cutthroat.
And
Cutthroat.
who kicked him off the ice? We need to get the names.
We need names. We need receipts. We have a bunch of your thoughts on Barry Trotz, on the state of the Predators, what comes next. So we will get into your phones, your calls, your texts, 615-737-1025 coming up next. It is your day after all, so get your thoughts in on the future of the Predators. It is Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, and before we go, I want to let you know that all the Preds fans can hang out tomorrow night before the Predators game at the Superbook Lounge and Landshark Bar and Grill, Margaritaville on Broadway with 1025 and 1063 The Game. Place your bets with Superbook and enjoy great food and drink specials. Plus, you can enter for a chance to win a pair of tickets to an upcoming Preds home game. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025, 1063 The Game.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Genesis is actually a new beginning.
Genesis Diamonds owner Boaz Ramon talking about why it's called Genesis.
I love the symbolism of the name. It's a new beginning.
Boaz wanted the name of his company to mean something, to reflect his core values and the importance of starting relationships for people in love, as well as the relationship he wants with each and every customer.
It's a new beginning in their life for the relationship between us, the jeweler, the Genesis Diamond, and the customer, and it should last forever. Everything we do is for the customer.
Walk into Genesis and you can feel it. Genuine people who are solely focused on celebrating the best moments of your life.
It's not only my passion, it's my culture. Genesis is the book where God created the world, the day and night, the man and the woman. Every diamond engagement ring that we specially created for the customer is a new beginning for amazing lasting relationship.
Come start your amazing lasting relationship today at Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs.
WPRT Pegram, WBUZ HD2 Laverne. We are 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
All right, we are back at Bridgestone Arena on the ice. We have one more, and I mean, look, what way to end this that has been fantastic. David Poile, the only general manager that this franchise has ever known, the outgoing general manager, which I'm going to have to get used to saying that, as I'm sure you're going to have to get used to hearing that. But before we start this, I'm going to get my thank you out of the way. You have been so incredibly nice to me as a young broadcaster, as I've grown into this role as now program director of the flagship station. You were one of the first people to congratulate me, and you'll never know how much that meant to me. So I've always tried to be fair. I know I may ask questions you don't always like, but I try to be fair, and I really appreciate you. And thanks so much for what you've done for the city I grew up in.
You're very welcome. I was hoping that phone call I made to you wouldn't give me the hard questions anymore, but that didn't change. No, just kidding. No, you guys have been you've been great. Everybody's been very, very fair in Nashville. It, it comes a little bit with the territory and the winning and losing, the passion, all that stuff. I get that. Nobody loves it in terms of when you get criticized, but this is the job, and everybody. Let's put it this way: if there was no criticism or no interest, then you and I wouldn't be having this conversation today,
Yeah.
and the Nashville experiment wouldn't have taken place. But it's all turned out to be just fabulous. 25 years, boy, did that go fast! It really went fast, but. As I've said, it just if I had to, and I did have a vision when I came here of what I wanted. I think it's really important. I have goals all the time. I write down goals, things like that. But as I sit here today, this was my vision of how it would be in terms of the what I hope people think is a successful franchise, a strong franchise, a franchise that's going to be here for a long time, because those that have been here for a long time remember that wasn't always the case, and that the team almost moved. Changes in ownership, just a lot of things that needed to happen and to be handled in this franchise. So I love it. I made the right choice coming here, and got to have my fingerprints on everything that's happened here, either good or bad. Can't ask for more than that.
David, why do you believe that now is the right time for you to turn the keys of the car over, so to speak, to somebody you know, but even before you knew Barry was going to be the one, when you talked to Sean and you talked to ownership and you said, I think this needs to be it, why do you feel like now is the right time?
Well, I always wondered when the right time would be, and like I've asked some of my mentors, older guys, have been, how did you know? And 90% of the time it was to get fired. That was not the right time. But everybody's been very nice to me in terms of the ownership, and I guess they feel I've done a decent job to this point, and so it probably goes back to the correct answer would be starts personally. I think I'm getting up there a little bit. Wife been to lots of games in her career. I mean, thousands of games, and we have grandchildren. I mean, I've heard other people say that it's in retirement, and there's a lot of things that we would like to do that we haven't had time. I mean, hockey really does get in the way of your life, and same as a lot of people that have had some degree of success. I've missed a lot of things. I get a second opportunity with grandchildren to do more things, and so that weighed a lot into it. And then I don't like believing that everybody has a shelf life, but this pro sports things just change a lot, and I mean, I feel good. I'm lucky I have my health, all that, but I just started to feel like 8 years of making the playoffs. Very proud of that in a row, but we're just in this middle, and we have to basically claw our way to get to the playoffs, and then we are not having any success in the playoffs because we weren't good enough, and we need to take a step backwards to take a couple of steps forward, and that's, I think you realize that's what my plan is, and you've seen a couple of trades in the last couple of days that reflect that. So that's really it in a nutshell in terms of what I thought. And again, I think you get energy whenever there's a change. If there's a coaching change and if there's a trade or whatever, you always get energy. And so if you change somebody at the top, which is the general manager, I think we're going to get a boost from that in a lot of ways, and it's going to carry over to. It's going to start right away with this season, and it's going to carry over to next year because Barry's going to make some changes that he wants to make.
It was interesting, the last 48 hours in particular. You've known that this day was coming. Barry has known it, and there were a couple of big trades made, as you mentioned, and not easy decisions, right? I'm curious how you guys was he sort of helping you collaborate at that point?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in touch with Barry every day for the last month, I would say at least, and that got ramped up to like yesterday, maybe 10 times. I don't know.
Yeah, just interesting day.
The way I've been working this situation is we got a thread between Barry and the three assistant general managers and myself, so we're in constant contact. And
well, I bet that's fun.
Yeah, no, it's cool. And I told him that I'm passing the torch to you. So this is what I think. This is what we've been talking about. Jeff Kelty weighed in, Scott weighed in, Brian weighed in, and we went through lots of things. So we've been talking on a daily basis to get to this point. I mean, when you get to, say, in a specific trade, so let's say Tanner's, we weren't actively trying to trade him, but he was sought after by a lot of teams. And again, all things equal, you'd probably want to keep Tanner, but we have to make certain decisions, and we wanted to get certain assets. So when we're offered the 5 picks from Tampa Bay, which is a pretty decent reward, we just felt that reflected the assets that we're looking for to as part of our plan. So what mean by that as the finished product is what I really believe we have in place going forward is now we got the draft equity for 3 years, and the farm club is getting filled up, and next year we will have at least 4 first-round picks in Milwaukee. So I can envision the plan. I hope the fans can envision the plan, but it's coming up, and now we just have to figure out what we're going to do with our rest of the roster.
Yeah, and one thing that I think a lot of people are curious about too is it's so natural. You see Barry, you and he are talking. When he's up there, there's still so many people, Terry Crisp and Jerry Helper. But I think a lot of people are really curious about bringing ideas from the outside as well to blend them with the way he was taught by you, brought up through, as you called it. You give him credit for the Predator way, right? But that's valuable things to work for a guy like a Lou Lamoriello or how they did things in Washington as well.
Yeah, I think I like everything about it because it's like you love your kids or what have you, but you send them off to college, and when they come back, it's like to mom and dad, wow, they've really grown up.
Yeah,
I mean they're actually smart now. That type. I don't know if that's a good analogy or not, but that's exactly what's happened here. And again, talking to Barry in the summer, and I thought for sure he was going to coach again. I think he probably did it that period of time, but again, we had all the things going for us in the right direction, meaning that he wanted to be in Nashville, his family wanted to be in Nashville. This is going to be where he retires regardless of what he was going to do, and that kept, the longer he put off the coaching opportunities and we kept talking, it just made more and more sense. So like I said, for me, it's like the closure of a book, and it's a very happy ending, if you will, for Barry coming back. It really feels full circle to me. I couldn't even think who else would I have hired if somebody like Scotty Bowman was available. I mean, I say, but Barry's the right fit, type of thing.
David, thanks so much for doing this. I hope this isn't the last time before you officially walk away as general manager, but it's been a pleasure to do this with you, and best of luck. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. It's really been good. Like I said, everybody's treated me really well, and from the media standpoint, as I said in my remarks, I mean, you guys have really been good to connect the players and the fans and get the message out and make us relevant. That wasn't always the way it was. So thank you guys very much.
David Poile, Predators general manager, joining us. Caroline, I send it back to you.
Appreciate y'all. Good conversation with David Poile. And as we were listening to, were you laughing about D-Mase?
Well, because David, the analogy, and he even said, well, this may not be a good analogy about Barry Trotz and, leaving and where his kids leaving.
Right.
And he come back and say, oh, you're smart now.
You grow and change. Oh, he's a new man.
Oh, man.
He is a new man. But we were talking about the break, and I think it's a question that a lot of us have asked ourselves, and it's, why now? The timing now. And David Poile has mentioned several times, this has been a process that's been in the works for the past few years, and I don't doubt that. Mm-hmm. I think when you've been at it for as long as David Poile has been at it, I think once you get to a certain point in your career in which David Poile is at, and especially given the circumstances around the team, after, firing Peter Laviolette in the middle of the 2019 season, coming off of, the highest of highs that this franchise had ever seen in 2017 on the Cup run, 2018, the President's Trophy team, of him asking himself, okay, where do we go from here? Because I'm sure at the point where David Poile is in his life and his career, I don't think he wanted to oversee a rebuild. So I'm sure that this has been a process, or at least a thought in the back of his mind over the last few years. He said the last 3 years this has been a process. That retirement has probably been in the back of his head over the past few years. I don't doubt that in the slightest, and I don't blame him in the slightest. But I've asked myself, why now? Why decide to make the announcement now? Why, after contemplating retirement or this being in the works or this being a part of the plan over the last 3 years, why step away now? And I think now he's at the point where he doesn't want to oversee a rebuild. Mm-hmm. He doesn't want to completely, sell off a lot of his assets, 2 of which have been traded away yesterday. And, Nita Ryder and Tanner Jeannot, that he didn't want to oversee that rebuild. Don't blame him in the slightest. But I interpret this, and this is just completely my own opinion and evaluation of the franchise and where it's at right now, is they made the announcement last night because they wanted to to almost show the fan base, like, hey, there's a change coming. That after all of these moves were made of, okay, you're trading away Tanner Jeannot, you traded away Nino Niederreiter, it's very obvious that the Predators are selling. I don't think that they're quite done yet. I wouldn't be surprised to see a few moves come down the pipe. I have seen a whole lot of chatter on Twitter about the Oilers' interest in Mattias Ekholm. And as David Poile has expressed, they'll pick up the phone about anybody. And as we saw over the weekend, they were pretty bold. So they are very obviously selling. So with all of the conversation along with the selling, I think the natural conversation would be, okay, then what about David Poile? What comes next for David Poile? How far is David Poile going to be overseeing this quote-unquote, I don't want to use rebuild, but let's just use rebuild just for lack of a better word. So I think that this is the team's way of saying, okay, we're making all of these moves, and David Poile is one of them, and almost just kind of, taking the focus off of David Poile moving forward and knowing, okay, hey, there's going to be bigger changes along with just selling.
Yeah.
That's just how I interpret the timing, because the timing is kind of interesting.
Yeah, it is. And let's call it what it is, because it's not a bad thing. It is a sort of a rebuild for this team.
Yeah.
You trade away two guys, one being a young guy that has been playing well, in Tanner Jeannot. You trade away Niederreiter. As well, and there possibly will be other moves that are going to be made. You change the GM. So, yeah, this is sort of a, and obviously we will see more moving forward, whether it be before the trade deadline or after the trade deadline heading into the summer. There's going to be more moves being made. Obviously, a new GM coming in, he's going to want, to put his stamp on this roster. And I'm sure it's not all going to be this calendar year, but moving forward, it started with the trades early, and I'm sure he had to have some input on that because he's going to be ultimately taking over the team. So I'm sure he has some input on the trades that were made, the other day. But moving forward, he's going to want this franchise to have his stamp on it. So it almost is a rebuild in a sense.
Yeah.
Yes, there are core guys that are going to be here, but honestly, it's because of contracts that they're going to be here for the most part. And I'm not talking about guys like Saros or Forsberg or Yossi. I'm talking about other guys that are under contract. They're probably under contract, and here, because their contracts can't be moved. So it's not going to be a complete, tear down or complete rebuild.
You're going to have Duchenne and Johansson moving
but
forward.
There's going to be a lot of movement in the next, let's say, 5-6 months with this organization.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll get back into your calls and your texts on that. But with the changes at general manager, some pieces being traded away, again, Niederreiter and Tanner Jeannot for a freaking haul over the weekend, a jaw on the floor kind of haul. What other changes could come in the Barry Trotz era? We'll get into that coming up next. And, of course, your phones. And, hey, the Preds have a game tomorrow night, and it is your chance to participate in Preds Pick to Click, brought to you by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty and Superbook Sports. If you correctly guess a Preds player that scores a goal in the game tomorrow night, you will win a pair of tickets to an upcoming Preds home game. Participate in Pick to Click tomorrow night at 8:45 a.m. with Robbie and Rex Road, 102.5-106.3 The Game.
When you want all the
going in and the score, blast the score. He risks one, they score.
And don't forget the
Oh, what a stop! Sliding across to make the save. The backhander, nice stop.
when all you want is Smashville. We have you covered. Hear every Predators game right here. We are your home for Smashville. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, it's Mike from Newton Nissan South. It's February, and I know most people immediately think of the groundhog. But I don't want to focus on how Phil became the most well-known weatherman in history and how his accuracy rivals most human weathermen. I prefer to focus on love. We all know the songs Love Hurts and Love Stinks. Those songs are not welcome here. At Newton, we love what we do. The heart of what we do is found in helping people. And what better way to do that than by listening to your needs and helping you find exactly what you're looking for? We love helping you find the car you love. We love keeping the car you love running at its best. We have tons of new cars on ground looking to be loved and a huge selection of pre-loved cars waiting for you to give them a new home. You can shop for your next love on our website with Newton FastPass. Your new love can be delivered to your home. Find your love at Newton or visit us online at newtonnissansouth.com.
Gary Ashton here. People walk up to me all the time and say, "Don't sell without the intel." This message couldn't be more true. Right now is a fantastic time to buy or sell your home in Nashville, but you can't do it without the intel. No one has more intel than the Gary Ashton team. So what is this intel we keep hearing about? Intel so you can sell your home without stagings or showings? Intel on where to find your next home so that you can sell your current home while the market is hot? And intel that helps you win the buyer battle and cash in on your home equity. For more intel, visit GaryAshton.com, where we can give you the insight and the most up-to-date real estate intel in Nashville. Plus, the Gary Ashton team is the official real estate team of the Nashville Predators. Get the confidence to sell your home and find the dream address without the stress. Visit us today at GaryAshton.com. That's GaryAshton.com. And remember, don't sell without the intel.
What if you could be credit card debt-free in 10 days and save as much as $1,000 a month? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. Hey, Willy Donick here. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low monthly payment. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days. And a $50,000 loan would only cost you around $400 a month. It's that money to pay off high-interest credit cards or do a home improvement. You can access up to 90% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need an appraisal. Even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Stop the madness and say no to 24% interest fees. Call Loan Pronto today. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Jewelry business, it's in my blood. I've been doing it all my life, and it's my passion.
Meet Daniel Sabalas, a third-generation jeweler at Genesis Diamonds.
This line of work, it's all about honesty and trust. It's about building relationships.
And that's what drew Daniel to Genesis, where it's all about education, transparency, and respect for each customer.
It's based on a family business mentality, and that's how we are. We're here to educate, to guide you, and we make it very easy. So we really go out of our way to educate customers in the right way. There's no stress level, there's no tension. The customer can feel that.
All this while providing the guaranteed best value price.
I've never seen a company that has the best price like this that I've seen anywhere. We are a powerhouse of diamonds.
Genesis Diamonds. No commission salespeople, no pricing games, no risk, no pressure, no cutting corners.
Genesis Diamonds is going to give you the best price, best quality, guaranteed, no matter what.
Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Quration CBD products. Quration began as our family's mission to provide the Nashville community with locally and organically sourced CBD products. We are passionate about providing high-quality CBD products for everyday use. Tinctures, topicals, and pet products too. We are a Pick 10 company. Our hemp is organically grown and produced in Nashville, Tennessee, from sustainably sourced non-GMO genetics. All of our products are lab tested. Find all of our products at QurationCompany.com.
You look at yourself in the mirror every day and you can't deny it anymore. Your hair is not as thick as it used to be, and it's making you feel self-conscious. Hair Club is here to save the day. For 45 years, Hair Club has helped more than 500,000 clients love their hair and feel confident again. No matter what stage of hair loss, they can help. Hair Club can customize a solution just for you. For a limited time, get 10% off when you book a free consultation today at hairclub.com/chase.
Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. Subscription required.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same but is 90% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to 4hims.com/joy. At Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the biggest brands at 90% off. That's right. Get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but 90% cheaper. It's the same medication you get from your doctor, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, forhims.com/joy. That's forhims.com/joy for your free online visit. forhims.com/joy.
Can't get enough Vanderbilt basketball?
Intercepted right all by himself for a one-hand flush.
Your home for the Commodores is 93.3 Classic Hits.
Put it up. It's good. Count it.
Join Coach Jerry Stackhouse and his team on their journey through the SEC.
Pulls a trigger. Yes, from three.
Check out Vandy Hoops on 93.3 Classic Hits and the Classic Hits app.
Hey, this is Philip Forsberg. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Hey, Nashville's best deal this week is 312 Pizza Company. 312 Pizza Company serves the best pizza in town. It's my favorite. As well as Chicago-style eats like Chicago dogs, Italian beef sandwiches, and more. Get half off a $30 gift card to 312 Pizza Company at thegamenashville.com/deals. Now, while supplies last. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. We're live out here at Barrel House at Bridgestone Arena. Willy Donick joins us now. Willy, it has been a whirlwind of the past few days for you.
Wow. Yeah, what a road trip. Going back to, we left for San Jose. You have all this, what are they going to do? What's the next move? You play against the Sharks, get a nice win. Everything looks really good. Friday, you go to Arizona. Saturday, I'm at a Cubs exhibition game, Cubs versus Giants with Max Hurst over here. Sold out crowd, 16,000 people, and during that game is when we learned about the Nino Niederreiter trade. So everything.
Only the beginning.
Yeah, so that you have that on Saturday, then the whole scenario on Sunday with Tanner Jeannot, the breaking of the story with Barry Trotz coming on. So, wow, what an amazing, from all the different perspectives of it. That was really the interesting thing to me, just to look at it from all angles.
Now, Willie, when Barry decided, once he, got fired and sort of, kind of got away from coaching, there still was this, because I remember us talking about it on air, there was this sense of, well, will Barry come back to coach here in Nashville? Could he possibly be in management? So this couldn't have been much of a surprise to you or Chris.
I remember when Barry Trotz was let go, and I'll tell you what, it was emotional all around. Like, it was certainly emotional for the people that had known him and worked with him, including myself. But even like the regular media people that were coming in there, they were emotional to see him go, because he's got this way about him that he's just an ambassador. He wins you over. He makes everybody feel like they're important. And he said at that press conference, he said, Nashville is always going to be home. So there was always a sense, when we would check on him in Washington and in New York, he would always kind of say the same thing. I'm going to end up back in Nashville someday. And he wasn't saying it was going to be as the coach or the GM or even working for the team. He just said that Nashville's going to be home. This is where I raised my family. This is what's comfortable to me. So I could envision this kind of thing happening, but it still seemed really interesting just to watch him walk up there and into the room, and now he's jumped in there. And he's jumped in, as we mentioned, during a very interesting time where they're making these huge decisions, right? Tough decisions. As the team has actually rebounded and played pretty well. It's a softer part of the schedule, but they're playing well. But they're making what they feel are the right decisions to take this, as you heard David just a few minutes ago with us, taking a step back to take hopefully a few steps forward.
Right, and I think that's what a lot of fans wanted to see, understanding that there might be a couple of years of some rough times through all of this change, but understanding that sometimes you have to take a few steps back to take leaps and bounds forward. But you mentioned Barry Trotz, and I remember an interview that he did with the NHL Network a few months ago, and he had like a a guitar, like a bunch of guitars hung up on the wall, and there was a Tennessee Titans helmet placed strategically very right over his right shoulder. And I thought, if that's not a campaign to come back to Nashville, I'm not quite sure what is. So I think that you're right. I think a lot of us expected Barry Trotz to eventually make his way back here, not just in living in Nashville in that capacity, but potentially being part of the Predators organization moving forward. And now we know, of course, he'll be the second GM. But what do you make of the timing of the announcement of David Poyle's retirement, of bringing in Barry Trotz? And like David Poyle mentioned, he's been part of some of the negotiations and the trades, and they've been in discussions for the past couple of months. So what do you make of the timing now for this announcement? Kind of odd on a Sunday in February.
Yeah, it's as David said, I think we all, and Derek, I think you're referring to this. He was such a sought-after coach after he got let go by the Islanders. It was a surprise that the Islanders let him go after all of the great times that he had there. They had one bad year. COVID just ransacked their whole team. It was just everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. It would have been easy to say, "Look, man, that was that. Let's reset it and come back." But they let him go, and he was courted by several teams. He could have just said the word, and he would have been the coach of the Jets, to name one, and there were a couple others too. So I think that was the sense that the Predators had was, eventually somebody's going to hire him to coach. But when he didn't, it got into the holidays. I think is what David said. He said, "Okay, well, if you're not going to coach," and I think Barry was in contact with him, "and you're interested in succeeding me, let's talk about that." And so I think they've been working on that ever since. It's pretty evident. And then it got to a point, obviously, a few weeks ago. I don't know exactly what the day was, but it sounds like he got into that chain, that loop, where David Poyle, that inner circle of the people he consults when he makes the decisions, right? And Barry Trotz started getting a little input there to sort of ramp up to this. And so, as far as the timing, I don't know, but we tried to ask David a couple of different ways, and he said, he's been thinking about it for a long time. When was the right time to get off the ride? But I think it certainly helped him be able to say, if I'm gonna step away, it's not easy to do it, but if I can handpick the guy, that really makes it feel a lot better. And he can still stay in the backdrop and still feel like he's a part of it in some way as Barry gets more comfortable with being the GM. I think it's it's a good transition, and I think it's really important to note how Barry Trotz, I think the fact that he had the experiences going to Washington and then going to New York and seeing how other organizations work, I think that will really help him come back here, because he doesn't have to just come in and say, well, we'll just do it the way we've always done it, because I think it's really important for him to bring a new perspective in, right, and work that in with what has worked here. Right? Don't you think? I mean, that's essential, right? I don't think the fans, I don't think anybody really in general would say, well, let's just keep it right on going the same way. I think it's important to have some new ideas, right?
Well, yeah, it is. Especially because he's been in Carolina, and I talked about this. He's a familiar face, but he's been gone long enough.
I mean, it's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a
his
while.
last year was 2014.
Exactly. So he can, and I'm sure he will, bring in fresh ideas from what he has seen at other organizations. What I'm interested in, Willie, is how will he be able to, because it's one thing to be a head coach, and even though he sort of backed off from it in a sense, that head coach sort of mindset still has to be in him. So how would that translate into him being a GM? Is he still going to have that fire to say, go, but how can he still remain GM but be hands off in regards to coaching?
Yeah, I think team? I think it'll be a part of the equation. I would like to think that, let's take it as an athletic director, right? You're an athletic director and you're hiring coaches, you're talking to coaches. I think a coach appreciates an athletic director who's been a coach, right? Rather than a lawyer who never really has played, never really has coached, and yet this person is the athlete. It doesn't mean it can't work, but I do think it really helps to have been through that experience, that respect. So I think Barry Trotz, knowing what it's like in the trenches, hopefully is a positive. But also at the same time, being able to back away from it and understand, Like, I can't always worry about today, tomorrow, like a coach has to, right? The general manager has to not only worry about today, but he's got to look at the big picture as well.
And I want to continue that conversation coming up next with the overarching question about all of this. Why Barry? And I see your phones. We'll get to those coming up next as well. 615-737-1025. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025, 1063 The Game.
Your home for MTSU basketball is 94.9 The Fan.
Three ball, yes sir!
All the big shots and moments live here. MTSU basketball is on a station built for you. 94.9 The Fan.
Willy Donick here for Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. The official 2022 stats are in, and the Pella brand is rated #1 by Nashville homeowners for windows and doors. One reason, Nashville homeowners selected Pella Windows #1 for the highest quality craftsmanship. Another key stat, Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville is also rated #1 for the brand that stands behind their product. If you need new doors or windows, the choice is clear. Choose the experts at Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. Go to PellaofNashville.com. Well, you get to hear the same voice back-to-back. Let me tell you about Lee Company, proud sponsor of our Nashville Predators coverage. I hope everybody enjoyed the process today as we got a chance to talk to David Poile and Barry Trotz on this real historic day as he takes over and will assume the duties on July the 1st. Meanwhile, the next chapter in the Predators season is tomorrow night against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Max Hurst will have our radio coverage, which will be brought to you by Lee Company, starting at 6 o'clock, and then Predators Penguins at 7. Lee Company, 615-567-1000 or leecompany.com. Get that air conditioning unit checked for the warmer months of the season. That's really important, and don't forget about the year-round coverage of the home maintenance plan. It's the way to go. You guys hear me talking about it all the time. It makes sense. Call right now, 615-567-1000 or leecompany.com. What if you could be credit card debt-free in 10 days and save as much as $1,000 a month? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. Hey, Willy Donick here. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low monthly payment. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days. And a $50,000 loan would only cost you around $400 a month. It's that money to pay off high-interest credit cards or do a home improvement. You can access up to 90% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need an appraisal. Even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Stop the madness and say no to 24% interest fees. Call Loan Pronto today. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Finding great people to hire is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. It's pretty difficult, right? Well, ZipRecruiter has mastered finding a needle in a haystack, so they take it to the next level. They make hiring so simple that it's like finding a needle in a needle stack. And that's why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Here's what it's like to use ZipRecruiter. They have so many qualified candidates that it's easier to find the right ones for your roles. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's a lot of needles. So how do they do it? ZipRecruiter's powerful technology sends you candidates who are a great match for your job, and you can even invite your top choices to apply. So if you want less hay and more needles, head to ZipRecruiter.
And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
They're insightful.
To me, you got a left guard situation you got to figure out.
Credible.
I trust this guy more than this guy.
But sometimes they just argue.
Why do you like the NFL playoffs? Those teams lose.
I don't want college football to be the NFL.
When they get...
Robbie Stanley and Joe Rexroad are Robbie and Rexroad. Weekdays from 6 to 9 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. See your phones lining up. Let's get to your phones. We haven't gotten to them all day. Rob is up next on the phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com. What's up, Rob?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. What a day. What a week.
Hey, Willie, about 6 weeks ago, I called in and said, hey, rumor has it Barry Trotz has been in the building a lot. I have a friend that works for the NHL ground crew there, and they've seen Barry Trotz a lot. You were like, he's just around all the time. He's here, he's there. Well, he's here now, and we got him. And I tell you what, I have a few thoughts on that, and I'll leave you with one thing that I think might happen in the future. So you've got maybe one of the nicest people on the planet. It's good selfishly for the community, for the hockey community. Absolutely wonderful person, wonderful family, and he brings a true character. Not saying there wasn't character here before, but he brings a character that I think people can really get in behind. And again, selfishly, he brings so much to the hockey community. I've spent a lot of time around him from a coaching perspective, and he's just an absolutely wonderful person. And so on the second thought of that, on the flip side of it, where do we look in the future? We're not building for the next 2 or 3 years. We're actually building for 10. If you think about the projection of what a player that would be first or second round draft pick next year, this year. But it's interesting. I'll be paying close attention on July 7th for the draft. He takes full control on July 1, but obviously having a hand in it. This coming draft will be fascinating. We have 8 or 9 draft picks, and then we have 2 draft picks in the 2025 draft. So pretty interesting. But what do you think on the last? What do you think will be the last big move? Do you think Duchesne? Rumor has it Duchesne might be going to Detroit if we capture some money. Have you heard any of that?
I have not heard that. I wouldn't be surprised if there's another move or two. If they, I just look at the market right now. It's the buyer, the seller, right? If you. Yeah. The way those teams, especially in the East right now, are loading up, they are willing to give assets to try to, fortify. Think about the first round. You have got the Rangers against the Devils in the first round. Somebody's losing. Somebody's out in the first round. Both of those teams, the Rangers have already traded for Tarasenko. There's rumor they're still going to try to get Patrick Kane. Mm-hmm. The Devils just made a big move yesterday to get Timo Meier. You've got Toronto that traded for Ryan O'Reilly, not Cal O'Reilly. I found myself. But they put in big assets to get that. They may try to make another move. So here's Tampa. They need every year they seem to do this, right? They'll almost overpay to get the guy that they want. Tanner Jeannot is going to be a really good addition to them. But how could you refuse that if you're the Predators here? So I guess the answer to your question, I don't know who it's going to be, where it could be, but if you get that phone call and somebody offers you something where you're like, man, I wasn't expecting to get that much. Mm-hmm. I think you'd have to listen to almost whoever it is if you feel like it's just blowing you away. And at the same time,
thanks for your call, Rob.
I don't, like we said before, I don't think you have to trade anybody just for the sake of trading it. But if you've got a deal that you feel like, man, this is one we've got to do, like the other perspective, I watched it from the player's perspective. I watched Roman Josi and Ryan McDonough and the veteran players watch that happen, where you lose 2 important players who's been on this journey from the start with you, to start the season. That hurts, right?
Yeah.
John Hines, that hurts. And to their credit, they played really well. So I think that's the balance you're trying to strike here. As you kind of send the signal that you're a seller. But look, there's not a whole lot of guys that you wouldn't at least take the phone call with, right, at this point, especially if that's the market. 5 draft picks and a defenseman that was a first-round pick. I mean.
Well, that tells you nobody is safe, in a sense. We understand that there are guys, whether it be, Josi or Saros or Forsberg, but with a move like they just made with Tanner Jeannot, you got a new GM essentially coming in July. Nobody's really safe, 100% safe. Now, some guys are more safe than others, but, if a deal come on the table that you can't refuse, then what are you going to do? You're going to take it, especially a team in sort of this, whether it's a rebuild, whether it's a transition, it's something. Mm-hmm. So if you're in that mode, then nothing is off the table. Everybody is, in a sense, fair game. But we know if you want the top line guys, then you're going to have to give basically the world to get them.
Yeah, but here's something to consider. Nino Niederreiter is a veteran player right, who has scored 20 goals in I don't know how many seasons, 5, 6, 7 seasons, got 18 this year. Tanner Jeannot is a second-year player who's having an off year. Why did the Predators get so much more for Tanner Jeannot than they did for Nino Niederreiter?
The ceiling could be higher. And you have
No, I don't think that's it at all. It's the money. It's very hard to move the money. So if you're going to trade a Duchesne or a Matthias Ekholm, it's going to be very difficult to get the return back because teams have to take on that salary cap. That's something to keep an eye on. Then the retention of salary is part of the equation too. Right. But are you willing to retain salary if you're the Predators for 3 more years? That's what is on Duchesne's contract. Or 2 more years if it's Ekholm. That's what you have to weigh based on what the return is. So a lot of people were saying, well, why does Nino Niederreiter, you only get a second-round pick for a guy that rock solid? Well, they had to take the $4 million salary through next year where the cap doesn't go up. So keep that in mind when you try to weigh, who's worth what and who might get moved here in the next week.
I've heard a lot of talk about that. I have no problem with the return for Nino Niederreiter. I heard a lot of Predators fans on Twitter just, what in the world? A second 2024 for Nino? He is a 30-year-old forward who has 18 goals this year. We've seen what he could do, but I think that maybe the best years are behind him. And just based off of his production this year, which has been fine, not great, not stellar, not elite.
But he could hit a career high in goals. He's having a really solid year. I think he's going to be really good next year. But
I didn't expect more than that for Nino Niederreiter, considering how much he's getting paid and where he's at in his career right now, in his age.
I could see how people though would think you would get more. But if you retain salary, you probably could have gotten more. But then you're saddled with that. So that cap space is so essential. So Tampa, they couldn't take on any salary cap. They wanted to make a move to answer all these other teams in the East they have to beat. So they had to find the guy that they could fit under the cap. And they still had to give back Cal Foote, who's, he may not turn into the first-round pick superstar that they thought he might be when they drafted him, but he's still a serviceable guy. They had to get that salary afterwards just to get Jeannot's salary in there. But a guy as valuable as Jeannot, who doesn't make that much, that's worth more to them. That's why they threw all these picks in there. The picks that they gave up were worth like an offer sheet. You'd have to sign a guy to an offer sheet for about $8 million.
Almost an entire draft.
It's unbelievable.
Just for Tanner
Jeannot. It's a whole draft.
Yeah, and if you look at Tampa Bay's team, the way that it's constructed right now, they don't need to find a top 6 forward for the future. They have those guys. Tampa Bay is trying to win right now. Right. They have a roster constructed to win a Stanley Cup right now. So they're not looking to hit it out of the park. But the return, that's per what whoever said it. I saw it on Twitter, and I apologize that it's escaping me. Jaw on the floor for the return for Tanner Jeannot.
So I'm sure the Preds were not expecting that, but then again, if it comes across your desk or you get that phone call and say, listen, this is what we're offering for Tanner Jeannot, I don't think you even second guess it. I think you just go ahead and do it.
You do it.
Yeah, because, yes, he can potentially be, a wonderful player, but when somebody offers you that much, it's like, man, for a guy that was, undrafted, and you're giving me this much? Okay, here, take it. Because hopefully we can find, someone that's Tanner Jeannot or even better in the draft.
Yeah, and I'll say this. Tanner Jeannot is special. That's a guy. I mentioned, the embrace you saw, the emotion you saw from him leaving, the emotion his teammates had for him. That doesn't happen to just anybody. He is a special, special guy. And I would not be surprised if he bounces back and is a big, big part of Tampa, not just this year, but I think they intend to sign him. He's going to be really good. But again, 5 draft picks and a defenseman who might be able to utilize here, that's too good to pass up.
Total haul. That's going to do it for us today. Big day for the Nashville Predators today. Jared Stillman is up next with Stillman & Company. We'll be back tomorrow at 11 a.m.